Hello everyone, Zeno here. Here to bring in part 15 of What If TMNT Were Teleport in Avatar. Link down description of the fanfiction of this What If. Listen here YouTube. I do not own anything and this is not a scam. Chapter 30. Reflect the past, glimpse the future. It was nighttime within the foot occupied Ba Sing Se. High security remained guarding the massive foot fortress where the Earth Kingdom's palace used to be. Within the fortress, in the seemingly empty launch bay for the foot carrier was one sole occupant. Dark Mikey snuck around a pillar and tiptoed his way across the floor to a certain spot. He looked around to make sure no one was present before he began to pry the metal off the floor. "Soon my love, we'll be together," he said as he reached into the hole he made and pulled out a sack. Inside the sack was a large turkey leg. Dark Mikey kissed his beloved twice before he opened his mouth to chow down. Before he did however, Dark Raph dropped down on him, smacking his fist on Dark Mikey's skull. "You holding out on us?" Dark Raph angrily questioned as he caught the turkey leg and began to walk away with it. Dark Mikey got up and rubbed his head. "You sir will hear from my neurologist," he angrily shouted at Dark Raph. Before Dark Raph got a chance to enjoy his newly acquired treat, he was smacked away by a tail from Dark Dawn. He growled as Dark Dawn grabbed the airborne turkey leg. "Au revoir you dumb behemoth." Dark Dawn mocked as he tried to run, but Dark Leo grabbed him by the tail. "Not on your life." Dark Leo pulled Dark Dawn, caught the turkey leg, and spun him in the air with his tail a few times before tossing him away. Dark Mikey pile-drived onto Dark Leo before Dark Raph and Dark Dawn joined in and began to comically punch each other over the turkey leg as it was thrown into the air, but a stream of blue flame soon incinerated it. The Dark Turtles all got up to see an annoyed Isula walking towards them. "Are you freaks fighting again?" Isula questioned. "If those shell-brained idiots you were made from can get along, why can't you? You're fighting over scraps like rodents when you should be hunting down those worthless, good-for-nothing turtles." She angrily shouted at them. Dark Raph did not like her tone. "You got some nerve, you puny piece of fire trash." He menacingly towered over her, but she wasn't intimidated at all. "You want to fight me, you oversized reptile? I'll happily oblige you," Isula challenged as she produced blue flames in her hands ready to throw down. "Fight, fight, fight," Dark Mikey cheered. Before the situation could escalate however, two large water tentacles came in between and pulled Isula and Dark Raph apart as Hama stood in between. "That's enough. Let's cool it, alright. I don't recall asking your opinion, Hama," Isula told her. "Ooh, someone's in a bad mood," Dark Dawn noticed. Could it be that little Miss Fire Princess was abandoned by her dear friends? Dark Mikey taunted in a mocking sympathetic tone, but was caught off a stream of blue fire was shot at him, causing him to shriek as he ducked to avoid it. "Say that again, I dare you." Isula looked ready to kill something. "Okay, you need to take a chill pill," Dark Leo told her. "The Shredder wants everyone here as his tech buddies finish Project Meteoroid. The turtles and their friends will come to us sooner or later. So back off," he told Isula. Isula glared for a minute before conceding. "Fine." She began to walk off, leaving Hama with the Dark Turtles. Dark Raph growled in her direction. "That brat is really getting on my nerves." "Ah, I know." Dark Dawn agreed. "Since when did we get stuck with her?" "Since the boss told us." Dark Mikey answered. "That chick's losing it, which says a lot coming from me, and I'm the special one." He chuckled at that. "So when is Project Metroid supposed to be done?" Hama asked. "I'm eager to see some fireworks. It should be finished in the next few days. Then we just wait for Sozin's comet." Dark Leo answered. "Good." Hama smiled evilly, but her smile faded as she began to cough heavily. The Dark Turtles looked at her curiously as she turned away, covering her coughing mouth with her hand. Once she was done, she looked at her hand in surprise to see some blood on it. "What's up with you?" Dark Leo asked. "Nothing." Hama hid her hand away. "Absolutely nothing." She began to walk away. The Dark Turtles looked curiously in her direction before Dark Mikey laughed maniacally again. "This place is full of nutcasses," he laughed. Oroku Saki's quarters. The unarmored, but still menacing, leader of the Foot Clan sat at his desk as his Foot Elite arrived with a report. "Master, we have some news." One elite spoke. "Speak," Oroku Sake urged. Master Shredder, the rebellions in the Earth Kingdom continue to rise, and the Fire Nation lacks the resources to properly combat them. The second elite informed. Protests in the Fire Nation continue to rise as well. The third elite added. Due to the increasing costs of our project, the country is on the verge of a recession. Already multiple jobs have been lost and downsizing is on the rise, and their economy is suffering greatly. This is of no concern to me. Oroku Sake replied after hearing this. You know of this. We are aware, the fourth elite said. However, if this continues, the Fire Nation will likely crumble completely and may find ways to retaliate against us. Our alliance is weakening. At this point, it no longer matters. Oroku Sake stated. Project Metroid is all but finished, and Sozin's Comet is less than a week away. After that, the Fire Nation as well as the Earth Kingdom shall be swept aside. Any sign of the turtles or the Avatar? No, Master Shredder. The first elite informed. We have not yet seen them, although all our forces are now concentrated in Ba Sing Se. For when they arrive, they will find great difficulty in getting to us. Excellent. Oroku Sake smiled. Ember Island. Our heroes, the alliance of Team Avatar, the Ninja Turtles, and their allies, have just left the theater. Sokka had suggested this particular play as a way to have some fun and lighten the mood given how grim their situation is. However, they were not pleased about what they saw. That wasn't a good play. Zuko said. Got that right. Leo agreed. I'll say. Aang also agreed. Worst thing I've ever seen. Raph commented. No kidding. Katara agreed as well. How can anyone call that thing a play? Don questioned. That wasn't a play, that was suckitude personified. Mikey stated. Horrible. Suki said. You said it, Toph agreed. But the effects were decent. Sokka pointed out, only to be smacked upside the head by Mai. Ow. This was your idea by the way. Mai pointed out. What did you think, Karai? Ty Lee asked her. Karai looked at her friend. That was the absolute worst form of entertainment to meet my eyes. Seriously, I need to wash my brain after seeing that crap. Casey pointed out. None of that stuff actually seemed accurate. April pointed out. Master Splinter was at the lead. Though he didn't need to voice his opinion as it was clear that he thought the play was terrible as well. Who was the director of that thing again? Mikey asked. Sokka looked at the poster. Someone called, Bay, I think. Zuko rolled his eyes. I've seen some of his works before. He just focuses more on special effects rather than the actual plotline. What about those actors though? Raph questioned. Seriously, could you even call them that? I know. Katara agreed. The girls especially didn't really seem to be actually acting. Just seemed more like eye candy for those preteen boys we saw in the audience. April was in agreement. That one actress, Megan Fox, I think her name was, what was her deal? You think that was bad? What the heck was up with those so-called turtles? Don questioned. They looked more like green, reptilian gorillas than actual turtles. We may be mutants, but there's no way we're that ugly. Mikey agreed. And where did that giant pig and rhino come from? Leo questioned as well. I certainly would have remembered fighting guys like them. I know he's supposed to be the bad guy, but they didn't even get Shredder's name right. Aang pointed out. It's Oroku Sake, not Eric Sachs. I mean seriously, how hard is it to remember? It's times like these where I'm really glad I'm blind. Toph commented. Zuko sighed. Let's just try and forget horrible excuse for entertainment ever existed and move on. Agreed. Everyone, even Master Splinter, replied at the same time. After some more walking, the group came to their current safe house, Zuko's family's old beach house. It was big enough to house all of them, Appa included, and the best part was, no one in the foot knew about it except for Karai, so it was the last place anyone would think to look for them. Everyone had each went to their respective rooms to get some shut-eye. Aang walked into his room where Momo was already asleep at the foot of his bed. He immediately flopped down onto the mattress and fell asleep. Avatar, Aang, open your eyes. Aang's eyes opened and he appeared to be in a white void. Hello. Who's there? Someone you know well. The mysterious voice came from a familiar figure whom Aang was surprised to see. Master Yoshi. What are you doing here? Avatar, tomorrow I will show you and your friends how this all started. Yoshi told him. You will learn the history of the Utroms and the Guardians, but more importantly, you shall learn the origins of the Shredder. Aang became serious. What do I have to do? The next morning. Wait, hold on, what? Sokka questioned as she, Toph, Zuko, and Sokka were surrounding Aang in the stone courtyard of the vacation house. The turtles, Splinter, Karai, Mai, Suki, Ty Lee, April, and Casey were nearby but back underneath the rooftop archway surrounding the courtyard. Yoshi's spirit is going to show us how the whole war between the Foot and the Utroms and their guardians started. Aang told him. Yeah, you just said that, twinkle toes. Toph responded with crossed arms. But I think what lame brain means is, how? I'm sorry Aang, but this is just a little weird. Katara confessed. I mean, we've seen you have visions via the spirit world, but we've never done it before. I know it's not been done, but Yoshi told me how it can be done. Aang said. Wouldn't it just be easier if we asked all of them? Zuko questioned as he pointed back towards the turtles, Splinter, and Karai. Yoshi told me it would be better if we were to see it. Aang replied. The rest of the group looked a bit uncertain, causing Aang to look slightly annoyed. Hey, you guys trust me, right? Aang, of course we trust you. Katara told him. But we've never done this before. Don't worry, I got you guys covered. Aang assured. So, are you with me? Zuko, Katara, Sokka, and Toph looked amongst each other before they looked back to Aang and nodded, causing him to smile. Alright, let's get started. How? Toph questioned. Everyone, sit down and join hands. Aang instructed as they all sat down, cross-legged, in a circle and joined hands. Aang to Katara, to Sokka, to Toph, to Zuko, and back to Aang. Now close your eyes. The Avatar instructed, and they did as told. Let your mind drift back. Don't think, just let it all flow. After about a minute of silence, Aang's tattoos began to glow as a faint white aura spread around all of them. The others observed this. Did they do this sort of thing often? April asked. Typically. Leo answered. Yeah, typical Avatar stuff. Raph agreed. Great, so what are we gonna do? Mike questioned. Mikey looked towards the direction of which the beach was. Anyone up for a swim? He asked. I'm in. Ty Lee excitedly raised her hand. Sure thing. Casey agreed. Sounds fun. April said. Why not? Suki shrugged. Karai simply shrugged. Then, let's get going. Don said as the group began to make their way down to the beach. Leo looked back towards his adoptive father. Sensei. You all go on ahead. Splinter told them. I will stay here and watch over them. He said, referring to the meditative team Avatar. Leo nodded as he joined the others. Splinter kept his eyes on the Avatar and his friends as he sat down. He had a pretty good idea what they were seeing, considering he and his sons likely had a similar experience. Aang, Katara, Zuko, Toph, and Sokka found themselves in a white void, and all were in the form of blue specters, not unlike when Aang would typically visit the spirit world. Though Aang remained calm, Katara and Zuko looked more surprised, with Toph and Sokka being the most freaked out. Wow, this is, Zuko uttered, never experiencing this sort of thing before. This is amazing, Katara voiced as she looked at herself. Is this what it's like for you, Aang? Sometimes. Aang shrugged. It kind of depends. Hey, a little help here. Sokka comically flailed his arms as he seemed to be floating in an empty void. Can someone tell me what's going on? Toph questioned. My feet can't feel a thing. So I can't see a thing. No need to panic. A new voice spoke as Master Yoshi, in the same spiritual state as them. You are quite safe. Katara, Sokka, and Zuko looked at this man with amazement. Are you, Hamato Yoshi? Zuko asked. I am, he confirmed. It's an honor. Zuko bowed. Hi, yeah, Mr. Dead Ninja Guy. Sokka tried to wave, having a strong feeling of awkwardness from all of this. I'd say, nice to meet you, too, if I were on solid ground. Toph said. So help me out here. It is all right, Yoshi assured. You will be on stable ground soon enough. He turned to Aang. Are you and your friends ready, Avatar Aang? Aang nodded. We are. Be warned, Yoshi advised. Much of what you are about to see may very well change your understanding of the world. Some elements may be too difficult for you to grasp, so I will help you in any way I can. Thank you, Aang responded. Yoshi extended his arms and hands out and a whirlwind picked up all around them. Everyone was gathered together as the environment around him or her changed drastically. They were no longer in a white void, but on the bridge of an alien starship. Aang, Sokka, Zuko, and Katara looked in mixtures of shock and amazement around them, whereas Toph felt herself on stable ground and sighed in relief. Ah, finally. She breathed, but soon felt the vibrations of the spiritual ground. So, where are we? We are on board the starship of the Utroms. Yoshi answered. He was correct, they were on a large starship piloted by the pink blobs that were the Utroms. One Utrom in particular, Mortu, was at the controls as he turned around to a container filled with liquid at the wall, with 3 Utroms in the container. Your blessing, honored navigators. Your course is straight and true. One navigator said with glowing blue eyes as he spoke. Through the vastness of space and time, the second navigator continued. Captain, you have the blessings of, the third navigator continued as well. The navigators. All 3 finished at the same time. This all came so fast for Team Avatar, with the exception of Aang, though he had a bit of trouble taking all this in too. So, these are the Utroms? Katara asked, to which Yoshi nodded. And that captain, is Mortu? Aang asked, having remembered him from his previous vision. Yoshi nodded again in confirmation. Could someone please describe some of this for me? Toph asked. I can't exactly get a good fix on these Utrom guys. They're basically little pink blobs. Zuko told her. Some of them are actually hovering off the ground. Toph's face was blank. Oh. Sokka looked weirdly at the tank containing the navigators. So, what's with the brains in the jar? They are the navigators. Yoshi explained. There were a few Utroms with psychic abilities, which were often used to help guide voyaging vessels through space. That's amazing, Aang said with a smile. And kind of weird, Katara said, more than a bit disturbed. I'm sorry, it's just, we're on an alien ship, one that is flying, through space. Yeah, it's a lot to take in. Zuko was in agreement. You guys are weirded out. I can't feel anything outside this flying tin can. Toph said. I know this seems overwhelming for all of you, but it is crucial that you learn this history. Yoshi said. But, try to think of it as if you were watching a play, perhaps that will help. Well, anything's better than that mess we saw last night. Sokka pointed out. Soon, the environment around them began to shift, much to the young one's surprise, especially Toph. Whoa, what's happening? Like Yoshi said, think of it like a play. Aang told her. And we're cutting to the next scene. The environment had changed to where the spirits of Yoshi and Team Avatar were in a security holding. They looked up to another vat filled with liquid. Inside it was a red-skinned Utrom with a scar over his right eye being held in restraints. These security precautions are pitiful. You will never hold me. The red-skinned Utrom said in a menacing tone. Mortu came in on his hover pad, floating through Sokka's spiritual body, much to his displeasure, as everyone listened. We have finally recaptured you after a 100-year search. We're not about to lose the most ruthless criminal the universe has ever known. Mortu declared. Most ruthless criminal? Katara questioned in mild surprise. The red Utrom gave an evil chuckle. I will escape, and you will all perish. That is my promise. Big talk, little slime ball. Toph shot to the red Utrom. Big talk, little slime ball. Mortu repeated. Toph gave an impressed smile. Huh. I think I like this Mortu guy. Mortu floated away as everyone looked up towards the evil Utrom. Who exactly is that? Sokka asked. That is Chirel. Yoshi answered as he glared toward him. A vile creature, anarchy and conquest are but the least of his crimes. Zuko glared as well. I don't know why, but something about him just makes me sick. I agree. Katara glared too. There's just this feeling around him. I haven't even met him, but I already don't like him. Aang looked up towards Chirel and couldn't help but get this feeling. For some reason, this being that he never seemed to have even met before seemed very familiar, and not in a good way. The scene once again shifted as they found themselves back on the bridge of the ship. Okay, I'm getting sick of this jumping around. Toph voiced. Hey look. Aang pointed out the window and they saw a familiar planet. Is that Earth? Zuko asked. Yes, my Earth. Yoshi confirmed. The Utrom ship was passing close to the green and blue planet. An Utrom on a hover pad hurried to Mortu with a panicked look on his face. Captain, the prisoner has escaped. What? Aang questioned as he and his friends looked shocked. Mortu growled as he activated the communications. Security, report. The prisoner is attacking. We are, ah. Those screams caused Mortu to look in shock, but it turned greater as the lights in the bridge suddenly flashed before going off completely. The navigators began to speak, using their psychic abilities to assess the situation. Emergency. Power cut. Engines are offline. Our minds are growing dark. Cell by cell. We are undone. Helm, you have control of the bridge. Mortu ordered. Security detail with me. To the engine room. Mortu then led his security team out of the bridge. Team Avatar and Yoshi continued to watch this play out, with Katara, Sokka, and Aang looking the most nervous. Why do I have a bad feeling about this? Sokka questioned. Do you think they're gonna be okay? Katara asked. Whatever happens, it's all history now. Aang said in a grim tone of voice. The scene shifted yet again. They were no longer on the bridge but in a different chamber. I'm guessing this is the engine room. Zuko guessed. You are correct. Yoshi confirmed. Mortu and two armed guards flew in on their hover pads as they searched the darkened engine room. Careful, the prisoner is very crafty. Mortu warned them. They suddenly heard the sound of electricity cackling as they looked down on the ground to see Chirel holding two sparkling, severed, electric cables very close together as he chuckled evilly. You see, I always keep my promises. Goodbye, Captain. Chirel pressed the exposed wires together, causing a massive energy surge, which began to rock the ship. The observing Team Avatar was looking around in shock at the rocking ship. Outside the ship, the engines behind exploded as the entire vessel lost its trajectory and began to fall close towards the Earth, thanks to the planet's gravitational pull. Mortu made his way back to the bridge, where the entire crew was in a state of panic. The ship rocked as Mortu held onto the controls. Helmsman, he called to his panicking crew. Mortu saw the planet they were heading towards. Helm, set course for that uncharted planet. The Utroms tried to get back in order. They knew they couldn't avoid the crash, so they tried to get it as stable as they could. We are Utroms. We are one. We shall not fail. We shall not fail, Mortu said almost like a prayer. As the ship entered the Earth's atmosphere, Aang and all his friends looked quite panicked themselves at this development, Sokka especially. It's not real. It's not real. It's not, we're gonna die. Sokka screamed. The ship fell at maximum speed towards the surface of the ocean. Mortu was at the controls as he tried to pull up. He was able to keep the ship from crashing into the water, but they were soaring fast towards a landmass. He tried to pull further up to avoid a more catastrophic crash. They came closer, and closer, right before they crashed. Aang and Katara quickly held each other with closed eyes as Toph latched onto Zuko as he and Sokka braced themselves for impact. Boom. Asterisk. The ship had crashed on a forested area a mile or two off the shore. It was in complete ruins. Aang, Katara, Sokka, Toph, and Zuko, as well as Master Yoshi, all stood up, their spiritual bodies phasing out of the rubble. Are we dead yet? Toph asked. No, we're good, Zuko told her as she let go. And it looks like so are they. Aang pointed to all the Utroms on what was left of the bridge. It looked like there were no casualties. Mortu regained his breath before sighing in relief at their survival. Sokka breathed heavily. I never want to go in a spaceship for as long as I live. Katara let go of Aang as she looked to Yoshi. Please tell me the worst is over. Yoshi gave a grim expression. No, not even close. Reality, Boss Sing say. Hama sat on a chair, facing a mirror, in her own room as she looked at her body, her only clothes at the time being a white robe as she looked at herself. Well, everything looks normal, she said to herself. Probably just those minor side effects, Stockman said. She sat down on her bed. After all, he said this body was foolproof. As she lay down to try and relax, she thought she heard her door open up. Who's there? It looked as though someone was indeed walking into her room, and this person was her old friend from the Southern Water Tribe, Kana. She looked about as young as when she last saw her. Hama, hello. It's good to see you again. This young, Kana, greeted her. You're tired, aren't you? Hama seemed to smile as Kana placed a hand on her shoulder. Why don't you get some sleep? You look like you could use some rest. Hama lay down on her bed, letting herself fall asleep as Kana stood up. Oh, and Hama. Maybe you should get someone to look at that finger, it doesn't look too good. Hama's eyes shot open as she woke up. Kana. She looked around and saw no one was there. She rubbed her head. Just a dream, she told herself, unaware of her hallucinations. But she felt something odd on her right hand and looked at her index finger to see it was red and swelling up. What? She questioned in shock as she suddenly stood up and fell off her bed. Her whole left hand appeared to have sores and swellings quickly form as she held her hand. What is happening to me? She began to panic. Genetics, lab. Stockman typed onto his consoles as he continued to look into the bending DNA data, and one screen it showed a recording of Aang fighting with the screen pausing and monitoring his airbending and recording the data. Interesting. Stockman mused. The data isn't all that different from the earthbending, waterbending, or even firebending data I've studied so far. He continued to type. But without a proper DNA sample, I lack the ability to fully analyze it. The door opened as Chaplain walked in with a clipboard. Dr. Stockman, sir. What is it, Dr. Chaplain? Stockman turned around. Everything is prepared, Chaplain answered. The generator is complete and installed in the ship. At this point, Project Metroid is complete. Excellent. Stockman smiled. Now all we have to do is wait for the comet. Drive Stockman, if you don't mind me asking, Chaplain began. I know we pretty much pulled all the Fire Nation's metal from all their factories into this project, but how exactly did we have the money to afford all of this? It's far more than anything the Fire Nation could ever have on their own. Well, we had to take several of the reserves from the Earth Kingdom as well. Stockman answered. Most notably some wealthy family called the Beifongs. But at this point, they'd be lucky just to afford the bare essentials. You sure this is all right, sir? Chaplain asked again. We've pretty much used up the entire Fire Nation's economy, and most of the Earth Kingdoms to get this done. Don't you worry, my boy. Stockman assured, placing a metal hand on his shoulder. Once this is all over, none of it will matter. He looked on with a menacing smile. After all, once we're done, the economy will be the least of their concerns. Ember Island Beach. While Team Avatar was having their spiritual vision, everyone else was pretty much chilling on the Ember Island beach. Ty Lee and Mikey splashed around in the ocean, Casey was trying to get a tan, Leo was meditating with Karai, Raph was sparring with Dawn, Suki, Mai, and April were sitting on a rock, engaging in idle chit-chat. Mikey was telling a story to Ty Lee. And then Raph said, he began to intimidate Raph's voice. I ain't sticking around here, I got punks to punch. I tell ya, what a hard case. Ty Lee laughed at that. I like how funny you are. Mikey smiled. Hey, bet I can hold my breath longer than you can. Oh yeah. Ty Lee accepted the challenge as they both ducked underwater. While everyone seemed to be enjoying this peace and quiet, Master Splinter still remained inside, keeping his eye on Team Avatar as Aang's tattoos still glowed and they were still in the vision. Night had fallen as the spirits of Aang, his friends, and Yoshi continued to watch as the Utroms were gathered around a campfire near the ruins of their crashed ship, with the navigators still in their tank. Well, I'm glad everyone's okay, Aang said, observing all of it. So what's going on now? Zuko asked. Listen and you will find out. Yoshi replied. My friends, and honored navigators, we are all safe. But the ship is ruined. Mortu showed a holographic star chart of their current location. We are stranded on this primitive planet, millions of light years from our home world. There is not enough to salvage. To repair the ship, we cannot return to our home world. No, Mortu answered grimly. Most of Team Avatar instantly felt sympathy for the marooned Utroms. So, how are they gonna get home? Katara asked. Captain, a yellow Utrom, the helmsman, flew up on his hover pad. There's a structure beyond the next rise. As the sun began to rise over the field, Aang, Katara, Zuko, Toph, and Sokka, along with Yoshi, still as spirits walked alongside Mortu and a group of Utroms up the hill. Once at the top, they all looked at the site of the large Japanese monastery that came into view. Aang and his friends' eyes all went wide, even Toph's dull eyes as she could feel it with her seismic sense. Wow, Aang breathed. Where are we? This is Japan, Yoshi answered. Evidence to support this was the sight of a samurai practicing swordsmanship in the distance. My home nation, 11th century Japan, in the feudal era, over 1,000 years ago. The young heroes looked in amazement. This is amazing. Katara said in a wide grin. It looks so beautiful. I know. Zuko breathed in agreement. It's a sight to truly behold. I don't know about sight, but my feet are telling me that this is awesome. Toph said in her own wide grin. It's absolutely incredible. Aang awed. Not just we're on another world, in an amazing place, but this is where ninjutsu was founded. We're at the roots of where the turtles and Master Splinter came from. They seemed completely unaware that Sokka was no longer with them, until he called out to them. Hey guys. They looked to see Sokka standing in front of the samurai. Look at me. I'm Sokka the samurai. He took out his space sword and made it look like he was clashing blades against the samurai's katana as he was practicing. The katana phased through Sokka as he played. Ha! Ya! Sokka made several dramatic attacks. Sword-bending slice. Sokka. Katara scolded. We're standing on sacred land. The least you could do is show respect. Sokka grumbled as he put his sword away. Fine. Killjoy. Katara looked towards Yoshi. I'm sorry about my idiot brother. Yoshi however looked amused. Do not worry, he assured. As Sokka walked, he passed by a blanket with the samurai's meal of rice balls. Sokka's mouth drooled. One thing that is respect-worthy is the guy's food. He quickly got to it. There better be meat inside. He tried to grab a rice ball, only for his hand to phase right through it. Huh. Sokka repeated the process, yielding the same results as he frustratingly and stubbornly tried to grab the rice ball that was beyond his reach. Aang, Toph, Zuko, Katara, and Yoshi walked up. There is some sort of lesson here. Yoshi said as everyone, even Zuko, laughed at Sokka's misfortune. But I'm enjoying this too much to think about it. Yoshi said amusingly as he watched as well. The scene had shifted to nighttime as the specters of Team Avatar and Yoshi watched the Utroms discuss their plan by the ruins of their ship. The helmsman Utrom showed a hologram of the Earth to Mortu. In brief, Captain, we conclude that the technology on this planet is too primitive to build a flying vehicle. Let alone an interstellar ship or even a hyperspace transmat device. The technology simply does not exist. Not yet, Mortu replied. But we can wait. This caught Team Avatar by surprise. Wait, what? Katara questioned. I'm not sure if I heard that right. Did he just say, we can wait? Sokka questioned as well. You heard correctly. Yoshi confirmed. They can wait. Toph exclaimed. Just how long do these guys live? The average lifespan of an Utrom can span several millennia. Yoshi answered. Seriously. Katara, Toph, Sokka, Aang, and Zuko all questioned at the same time. Wow, these guys are older than even me. Aang stated. So let me see if I get this straight. Zuko began. These aliens are going to wait 1,000 years, 10 full centuries, so they can build themselves a way to go home. Yes, Yoshi responded. That is exactly what they did. Reality, Boss Singh say. Azula was alone in an open field just outside the Foot Fortress. She was practicing several firebending forms. Throwing out several punches, kicks, and sweeps, creating multiple streaks of deadly blue flame. She finished her form by generating lightning and shooting it out of her fingers into the air. She breathed heavily, regaining her breath. Someone's been busy. Azula turned around to see Hun walking onto the field with an amused grin on his face. What do you want, Hun? Azula impatiently asked. I don't have time for this. Just checking on how the little princess is doing. Hun said in an almost mocking tone. You don't seem to be clicking well with Hama or those freak turtle clones. Azula looked towards Hun. Mai and Tai Li, two of my best soldiers, have deserted me. Now I'm being handed down to an old waterbender and some wannabe freaks. So pardon me if I feel like I've downgraded. Hun smirked. So you miss your little buddies. Guess they think Zuko and Karai are better company than you. This was grating on Azula's nerves. Did you come here just to give me a hard time? No, Hun answered. I came here because the master wants everyone gathered. Project Metroid is complete. Azula calmed down as she tried to put on a composed smile. Well then, lead the way. The two went back inside. Meanwhile, inside the fortress, Oroku Sake and his elite were walking through the halls when a foot soldier approached them. Master Shredder, we have a problem. What is it? The governor of New Ozai, Ukano and his wife, are here. They have demanded to see you. The ninja informed. Oroku Sake looked a bit annoyed before he turned in another direction with his elite towards the front entrance. After a few minutes, the Foot Clan's master came to a small gathering of foot ninja trying to hold back a struggling Ukano. Let me through. Let me through, he demanded. Do you know who I am? I demand an audience with your master at once. Oroku Sake stepped up. Let them pass. The ninjas all bowed as they allowed Ukano and his wife, Michi, to come face to face with Oroku Sake. These were among the wealthiest in the Fire Nation and the parents to Mai. Mr. Sake, does the well-being of the entire Fire Nation mean nothing to you? Ukano questioned. Watch your tone, one elite warned. You will refer to him as Master. Sake raised his hand. Let them speak. Ukano began to speak. It wasn't bad enough that Tricky Boomy escaped and reclaimed Omashu, but you've not only taken every ounce of metal the Fire Nation's factories worldwide have produced, you've also spent all our stockings into this mysterious project of yours. The entire economy of the Fire Nation is on the verge of collapse. And with the rebellions occurring across the Earth Kingdom continent, our entire nation will crumble completely. Millions of people will not only lose their jobs, but their homes and livelihoods. And our daughter is missing. Michi exclaimed. We have not even received a letter from her. This did not faze Oroku Sake at all. What is your point? What is our point? Ukano could not believe what he just said. Our point is that you are running the Fire Nation into the ground. We're the greatest empire in the world. And you are letting waste away. A necessary sacrifice. Sake dismissed. Once Sozen's comet arrives, none of it will matter. Do you understand what we are saying? Michi questioned. Our own country will meet its end if something isn't done immediately. You've even drained away almost our entire family's fortune. You said that Fire Lord Ozai placed you in charge, if in the event something happened to him. Ukano continued. Well, start acting like a Fire Lord and help the nation you are supposed to govern. The foot soldiers and the elite did not like the tone they were speaking to their master at. Sake himself was also growing tired of it. Fire Lord Ozai is dead. Oroku Sake said. I have complete control of this nation, which includes all of its resources. I can do what I wish with it. He looked directly at Michi. And your daughter is a traitor. This caught both Ukano and Michi by surprise. She allied herself with the Avatar and the Turtles and now stands against me, and by extension stands against the Fire Nation. Sake continued. I have already given the order. She, as well as anyone else aligned with the Avatar and Turtles, have been marked, kill on sight. Both their faces were struck with horror. You can't do that. Michi stuttered. Yes I can. Oroku Sake replied. I own this nation. Anyone who is not with me is against me, and I crush anyone who stands against me. Ukano shook his head. No, Fire Lord Ozai would never. He most certainly would. Sake interrupted. He couldn't care less for the safety of his people, only his own personal power. Ozai had many flaws, but his greatest was his inability to properly rid the Fire Nation of dead weight. Ukano and Michi shook with fear and shock as Oroku Sake said that. He turned to his soldiers. Escort them out, and see to it that they do not bother me again. Yes, master. One foot ninja replied as they began to escort the stunned and horrified nobles out the main gate. Vision. It was daytime in Japan as Mortu and a few Utroms hid in several bushes, observing the ongoing humans, who remained oblivious of the aliens' presence. The spirits of Yoshi, Aang, Zuko, Katara, Toph, and Sokka watched as well. Later that night, the spirits of Yoshi and Team Avatar watched with the Utroms as Mortu and the helmsman were ready to display a new invention to them. From our technology that we've been able to salvage from the crash, I give you, the helmsman began as he and Mortu lifted the covering to reveal a robotic exoskeleton. The Exo-suit. What is that? Katara asked. It is a suit of sorts. Yoshi explained. The helmsman explained its function to the Utroms, while simultaneously answering Katara's question. With the proper covering, he flew in his hover pad, into the open chest area. This will allow us to move among these humans, undetected. So it's a disguise for them. Sokka assumed. That is correct. Yoshi confirmed. Some disguise. Toph said. Anyone with feet like mine can tell the difference. They would later develop more advanced suits that would better hide themselves from human eyes. Yoshi said. Well, I think it's pretty cool. Aang said, observing the exo-suit. The helmsman struggled to get full control as he started it. I believe a field test is in order. The next day, the helmsman was performing the field test with the exo-suit. It wore a red robe with a basket hat as it walked in public. Yoshi's spirit, as well as Aang and his friends, walked alongside him. He struggled at first, but was able to get full control. As he walked, no one seemed to notice anything odd and passed by, everyone minding their own business. Well, looks like it works. Zuko observed. Gotta give credit to these Utroms, they know what they're doing. Katara said. Sokka looked impressed. I'd certainly like to get my hands on some of their tech. Now that I'd love to see. Toph stated with a grin. Or feel, well, you know what I mean. Everyone, even Yoshi, shared a laugh as the helmsman in his exo-suit walked into a forest of bamboo trees. Satisfactory. Most satisfactory. The helmsman stated with pride. Test run concluded. First outing a complete success. The exo-suit's foot, however, caught on a string that was tied in front of him. What? Everyone looked up in surprise to see an incoming log-on rope swinging down. It's a trap, Aang exclaimed. There were a few yells and short screams from Team Avatar as the log swung through them and into the exo-suit, knocking the helmsman down on the ground. He was a bit disoriented as he was almost knocked out of the suit completely. A small shadow loomed over him. The helmsman looked up and gasped in terror. You. Chirel stood up from a rock, looking down on him. What a wonderful toy. I want to play, he said sadistically, taking a liking to the exo-suit. Aang, Sokka, and Katara looked in shock while Zuko and Toph glared. It's him, that evil Utrom guy, Sokka pointed out. Chirel, Zuko growled. The red Utrom knocked the helmsman out of the exo-suit before he himself got into it. Here I was hoping he died in that crash, Toph said in an angry tone of voice. You and me both, Zuko agreed. Aang, Katara, and Sokka glared as well, as did Yoshi, as they saw Chirel stand up in the exo-suit, giving an evil chuckle. The helmsman tried to run away on his tentacles, but Chirel easily caught him and picked him up as the evil Utrom continued to laugh. Like I said before, I really do not like him. Katara glared daggers at him. If this were real life, I'd grab that little red blob and squish him. Sokka exclaimed angrily. Glares intensified as Chirel threw the helmsman away. Aang glared on but sighed. Guys, as much as we hate this, we can't do anything about it, he said as they watched Chirel walking away. You're sure? Zuko asked. Because personally, I'd love to burn that little piece of. Ease your aggression, Yoshi stated. This has already happened, and we can only observe. Even if we wished to intervene, we cannot, he said reluctantly as they watched him walk off, and Chirel chuckled one more time before the scene around them changed again. This time, they were back at the ruins of the ship. Multiple exo-suits were now being built by the Utroms, including the helmsman, who sustained a head injury from his encounter with Chirel. What's going on? Katara asked. Time has passed, Yoshi answered. A few months have passed since that incident. Months? Aang and Sokka questioned at the same time. Well, what's happening now? Zuko asked. Toph's eyes widened as her feet picked something up. Guys. Several black and gray-clad ninjas appeared as they threw down small explosives at the Utrom's equipment, causing several explosions and fires, starting panic among the Utroms. What the, who are these guys? Sokka questioned. Zuko saw a familiar symbol on the shoulder of one of the ninja. No way, those are foot soldiers. What? Katara questioned. The foot? Seriously? Toph questioned as well. Yes, Yoshi said. These are the original foot ninja. But how? Aang stuttered, but something else happened as someone else arrived on the scene. As the ninja regrouped together, a new individual, clad in heavy armor, leapt down. It wasn't just the armor that struck them, it was the design of it, as it bore a very strong resemblance to someone they all knew and feared. Everyone in Team Avatar gasped at the sight of this person. Guys, is that who I think it is? Katara stuttered, her voice trembling. He looks almost like the Shredder. Aang stuttered as well. He looks too much like the Shredder, Zuko stated in shock. There's no way though, Sokka breathed. This feudal Shredder raised his claws. Ninjas attack. Destroy them all. Toph's own eyes widened again. He even sounds just like the Shredder. Despite the armed Utrom exoskeletons, the foot soldiers were far too quick for them and were easily able to beat them down. Several tried to pile on top of the feudal Shredder, only for him to throw them off. He soon came face to face with Mortu in his own exo-suit. "What is the meaning of this? We mean you no harm," Mortu exclaimed, but the feudal Shredder didn't appear to listen as he attacked Mortu. He kicked him back, and then laid several punches and palm strikes before kicking him to the ground. "We come in peace," Mortu pleaded. "But you will go, in pieces." The feudal Shredder lifted his foot and attempted to stomp on him, but Mortu rolled out of the way. Team Avatar continued to watch this with wide eyes. The first to speak was Sokka. "No way. There's no way this guy is the same Shredder. Yeah, this is 1,000 years ago. It has to be his ancestor or something." Katara agreed, but was still shocked at the sight of this. Aang looked towards the spiritual master. "Yoshi." Before Yoshi could answer, the scene shifted again. This time it was night and they all stood in front of a small shack as a swordsmith and his assistants worked on a blade. "Wait, what happened?" Aang questioned, as they were in a new location. "Where the heck are we now?" Toph questioned too. "Who is that guy?" Zuko demanded, referring to the feudal Shredder. "What happened to the Utroms?" Katara asked. "What is going on?" Sokka practically demanded. Yoshi raised his hand. "Please." He silenced them. The Utroms were able to escape, but barely. And yes, those warriors were the original foot ninja. But what about that guy? Was he an ancestor to Shredder? Sokka asked. "That, you will see at the end of this," Yoshi said. "So where are we now?" Aang asked. "The shop of a swordsmith," Yoshi answered, pointing to said shop. "And why are we here?" Zuko questioned. "You will see shortly." Yoshi pointed to the bamboo trees. Everyone looked in surprise as they saw the feudal Shredder and a few feudal foot soldiers walk out and towards the shop. The swordsmith and his assistants immediately bowed in his presence as the feudal Shredder approached them. "Swordsmith, is it finished?" "Hi, Tanasama." The swordsmith presented in a long cloth the finished blade. "I made the blade just as you requested." He unwrapped the cloth to show the blade. "The metal is amazing. I have never seen its like before." The feudal Shredder picked up the blade. "Nor will you ever again." He pulled out a handle, which looked very familiar to Team Avatar. Let us just say the metal fell from the heavens. He placed the blade into the handle, and it immediately lit up with energy, much to the shock of the swordsmith and his assistants. Team Avatar also looked in shock. Just as the ninja are said to have descended from goblins, the feudal Shredder handled the weapon. "Behold, the goblin sword, the sword of Tangu." There was a collective gasp from Team Avatar once they heard those words. The feudal Shredder pointed the energized sword at the swordsmith. "And now for your payment." He shot a blast from the sword and blasted the swordsmith and his assistants right through the back wall of his shop. "The sword is perfect," he began to boast. "With it, my enemies will not be able to hide. I will find them, and destroy them." He gave a loud and mighty laugh as Aang, Katara, Sokka, and even Toph looked in fear, while Zuko and Yoshi glared. "So, that's how," Aang breathed. "That's how the sword of Tengu was built." "But what did he mean by the metal fell from the heavens?" Katara asked. "The metal is Utrom technology," Yoshi answered. The foot would later infuse the advanced technology with mystic totem and abilities, thus making it the weapon you know today. "So that's why the sword's so powerful," Zuko deduced. The scene began to shift once more. This time, it was in a hidden cave where all the Utrom in exoskeletons were hiding, and with them several humans clad in blue ninja robes. "Where are we now?" Toph asked. "A hiding place of the Utroms," Yoshi answered. "As you know, with the foot now wielding the sword of Tengu, the Utroms alone could not fend them off. They would need help if they were to survive. So they've selected several humans whom they personally observed, humans whom they believed were noble and honorable, and would keep their existence a secret to the world." Yoshi pointed to the scene where Mortu, in his exoskeleton, was presenting a golden medal with the symbol of the Utrom over the head of one of the humans. Aang recognized the symbol and the garb. "The Guardians. These are the Guardians. Your predecessors, Yoshi," Aang said to him almost excitedly. "They are indeed," Yoshi confirmed. And with that, so began the 1,000-year-long secret war. The Utroms and their guardians would seek refuge to not only protect themselves, but also await for when humanity had developed the necessary technology for them to use to build themselves a way home. But the purpose of the Guardians was not just to protect the Utroms, but to protect the world from the menace of the Foot which sought complete and absolute dominance. And this war continued for 1,000 years. Zuko asked, to which Yoshi nodded. And I thought the war in our world was terrible. Aang and all his friends had done their best to take this all in. In all honesty, it was a bit overwhelming for them. While many of their questions had been answered, many more had emerged from this experience. But they weren't done yet. Reality, Ba Sing Se, Foot Central Command. Oroku Sake and his elite stood waiting in his main chambers. The door opened to reveal Isula, Hun, the Dark Turtles, and Hama enter the room. Welcome. Oroku Sake greeted his comrades. I trust you have all been well informed. Your supposed Project Metroid is finally ready. Isula said. Indeed it is. Oroku Sake confirmed. Allow me to show you. He turned around as he approached the back wall. He pressed a few buttons on an adjacent keypad and a set of double doors opened from the wall to reveal an elevator. He motioned for everyone to walk inside, which they did. Ooh, big secret elevator. Dark Mikey sung. Things are getting very interesting. Blah blah blah, when are we gonna smash something? Dark Raph questioned as they walked inside. The doors closed as the elevator descended. You won't be smashing anything yet, dolt. Dark Dawn told the red clone, causing him to growl. Knock it off you morons. Dark Leo scolded. He turned to the master of the Foot at the front. So everything's ready? Yes. Sake replied as the elevator came to a stop. Everything that I have planned since my arrival to this world, since learning of the existence of Sozin's comet has led to this. The doors opened as they all walked out and into a massive laboratory area where many Foot technicians were working, along with Stockman and Chaplain who gave bows to Oroku Sake and company as they walked in. And now all that I have worked for is now finally in my grasp. Oroku Sake stated as they walked out of the laboratory and showed something that made everyone, Isula, Hama, Dark Leo, Dark Dawn, Hun, Dark Mikey, even Dark Dawn all look in shock. It was a massive silo, and in it was a gigantic rocket-like starship, made entirely out of metal. It was dark blue and black with large spikes all across the sides. It pointed straight upward almost like a massive missile. Is that a ship? Hama questioned. Indeed it is. Stockman confirmed as he and Chaplain joined them. This magnificent device is the result of all the alien technology acquired from both the Triceratons and Federation from our dimension, combined with all the vast metals the Fire Nation's factories were able to reproduce. A true technological wonder. Stockman boasted with wide arms. Our own gravity generator has been built directly into it. Chaplain informed Sake. Reverse engineered from the blueprints of the Triceratons' anti-gravity generator. Perfect. Oroku Sake smiled. Isula stood alongside him. I must admit, no one, not even my father or other past Fire Lords could even conceive of something this magnificent. Now all that's left is to wait for Sozin's comet. Hun stated. Yeah, and once it shows up, then we'll be in for some real fireworks. Dark Mikey laughed maniacally. However, Sake spoke up as he turned to all his servants. It would appear that we have encountered a slight problem. Of course. Dark Leo stated. The turtles and that avatar runt are still out there. I'm not just talking about them. Oroku Sake replied, surprising the group. I believe that we may have a traitor in our midst. Everyone was greatly surprised by that. Chaplain appeared the most surprised. A traitor master. Are you sure? I find the sudden escape of Mai and Tai Li, as well as their appearance to aid our enemies at the Air Temple attack to be far from coincidence. Oroku Sake stated. What idiot would be stupid enough to try and betray us? Dark Dawn questioned. Zuko and Karai. Isula replied. They must have someone here working for them. Hun nodded. They probably made contact with their agent before they left the Foot. Stockman quickly raised his robotic hands. I'd like to point out that for the record it is not me. The elite, Hun, and even Oroku Sake looked at him suspiciously. This time, Stockman added. Hama looked towards Oroku Sake. So, have any idea who it may be? And when I can crack their skull like a peanut? Dark Raph asked as he punched one of his talon knuckles into the ground for emphasis. Chaplain silently gulped at that. We will find out soon enough. Oroku Sake said. You will help me to root out this traitor, whoever they may be. Yes, Master Shredder. The Elite, Hun, Dark Leo, Dark Raph, Isula, Hama, Stockman, Dark Dawn, and Chaplain said at the same time. You got it, boss. Dark Mikey saluted. No one, not even Oroku Sake himself, seemed to notice Chaplain looking nervously. 5 minutes later, Chaplain was in his personal quarters. He made sure the door was locked and that he wasn't followed on his way here. He quickly went to his computer and typed several commands, making sure this signal was hidden. Kurai, I'm sending you an encrypted message. Chaplain began to say in his message. Bad news, Project Meteoroid is complete. And worse news, Shredder knows there's a spy in the foot. He doesn't know it's me though, at least not yet. I can't do anything more that might give me away, so I'm going under radio silence. The rest is up to you now. Chaplain out. Chaplain pressed one more key and sent the message. Now all he could do was hope that Kurai, Zuko, and their friends were ready. Team Avatar Vision. The scene had shifted once more. The spirits of Yoshi and Team Avatar found themselves in a new location, a technologically advanced room with red cracking and glowing lines spread across the room, along with Mortu, several other Utroms, a few Guardians, even Professor Honeycutt, and even more surprising, their friends, the Turtles and Splinter. It's the guys. Aang noticed the Turtles. Master Splinter. Katara questioned. Okay, what's going on? Where are now? Zuko asked. We are still in the past, just a more recent past. Yoshi explained. More than 1,000 years have passed since the Utroms crash-landed on Earth, 1,000 years since they've founded the Guardians and fought against the Foot, and now they are ready to finally go home. So they finally built themselves a way home? Toph asked. Yes, Yoshi answered. They developed a device that could teleport them, or for your understanding, turn their bodies into a mass of light and send it straight to their home planet. Sokka had a look of geeky amazement at that. Wow, that is so cool. Why are the Turtles and their sensei here though? Zuko asked. The Turtles and Splinter have by now met the Utroms and became their allies in the fight against the Foot. Yoshi explained. And now they are exchanging their goodbyes. But what's with the room? Katara asked, looking at all the red crack-like lines spread across the walls, floor, and ceiling. The Foot had planted a bomb and the entire building is now set to blow. Yoshi explained, causing the young Team Avatar to look in surprise. Man, talk about going out with a bang. Toph commented. Guys, listen. Aang got his friends' attention as they watched the vision from the past play out. Splinter was facing Mortu in his Exo-suit while the remaining Utroms, Guardians, and Honeycutt were on the hyperspace transmat, ready to go home to the Utrom home world. It has been an honor to know you and your race, Mortu-san, Master Splinter bowed in respect. It is we who are honored, Master Splinter. Mortu bowed back. Before we leave, a small token of our appreciation. He opened his hand, where a small blue orb materialized in his hand. Mortu then presented it to Master Splinter. Once it reached Splinter's hand, he instantly had his own vision. Though everyone was unable to see it, it was of Yoshi as Mortu spoke. Your Master Yoshi was the most loyal guardian that ever served the Utrom. He gave his life to protect us, but his spirit lives in our collective history. Master Splinter shed one single tear in his right eye as he smiled. While at the same time, Aang and Katara looked up to the spirit of Yoshi himself with smiles as they pat his arms. Sokka gave a gratitude-filled pat on the back. Zuko nodded to him with a smile as Toph gave one of her typical punches to Yoshi's arm with her own grin. Yoshi gave a smile to the youngsters who just showed him one of the biggest expressions of respect and admiration they could give. Mortu spoke to Splinter and the Turtles as he kneeled with his Exo-suit. And now my friends, you must leave this building while you still can. He stepped out of his Exo-suit and onto the floor. Donatello, if you would do me the honor of powering up the transmat. Sweet. Don excitedly exclaimed as he ran to the controls while Mortu got onto the pad. I'm all over it. However, before he could even work, multiple shurikens flew right into the controls, causing them to spark. The Turtles, Splinter, and the spirits of the Gong looked in shock. What's going on? What just happened? Sokka questioned. Everyone, both in the vision and in spirit, looked in the direction of where the shurikens came from. Oh no. Katara breathed in terror. The The Shredder, as well as Hun and his elite ninja all stood at the entrance with hateful glares. As long as I live, you will not leave this place alive. The Shredder declared. While the Turtles and Splinter each had their own expressions of shock and fear, the spirits of the gong had similar reactions. Aang and Katara looked in shock, Sokka was one of wide-eyed fear, Toph and Zuko gave hateful glares, as did Yoshi. They could only watch as the Shredder leapt into the air straight for the heroic mutants. He kicked Leo away as he fell, delivered a sweeping roundhouse to knock down Raph and Splinter, and batted away the incoming Don and Mikey. Aang looked in surprise. I forgot just how good he was. He just took down the Turtles and Splinter in less than a second. Sokka exclaimed. Shredder walked up on the transmat. Our 1,000-year struggle ends now. One of the Guardians drew his sword to defend the Utroms as he faced Shredder. Before the Shredder could strike, however, Leo came in with a kick across Shredder's face. Don, Raph, and Mikey came in with similar attacks, and finally Splinter jumped in front of Shredder and kicked him off the transmat and away from the Utroms. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Toph cheered for the Turtles. One of the Guardians was about to join them. No. Don stopped him. Protect your masters, we'll handle the Shredder. The elite tried to help Shredder up, but he brushed off their hands. Let me finish the Turtles. Hun requested. No, they are mine, Shredder exclaimed as he stood up on his own. You and the others track down Stockman. He is still of some use to me. The elite and Hun left the chamber as Shredder saw Don working on the controls. No. Despite the damage, Don was still able to power up the transmat as he pressed the main activation button. We shall meet again, the head guardian told the Turtles as the transmat activated. After 10 centuries, I will not be denied my revenge, Shredder declared, but that declaration caught Aang, Katara, Zuko, Sokka, and Toph completely off guard. Wait, did he just say 10 centuries? Zuko questioned. He did, Yoshi nodded. But, if that's true, then, that means, Aang's eyes widened in realization and horror as he figured it out. Yes, the Shredder you see now, and the one you face today, is in fact the same one from 1,000 years ago. Yoshi confirmed. Their looks of shock could not be described by mere words. What? How is that possible? Katara questioned. Seriously, not even Aang is that old. And he's been alive for 100 years. Sokka exclaimed. What, is the Shredder immortal or something? Toph questioned as she held her head like she were about to lose it. Wait and see for yourself. Yoshi gestured back to the scene as Shredder tried to run at the transmat as it activated, only for Splinter and the Turtles to stand in his way, but even if they didn't it was already too late. The transportation was complete. In a beam of blue light, the Utroms, their guardians, and Professor Honeycutt had transported away back to their home planet. They were gone and outside the Shredder's reach. While the young warriors of Team Avatar could be relieved at the fact the Utroms were able to get back home, they could only look in suspense as Shredder remained silent. An expression of disbelief was evident in his eyes as he saw his enemies slip through his grasp. He gave a death glare towards the mutants in his path. You, Shredder spoke in a tone that sent a chill down even Zuko's spine. You have been little more than thorns in my side, he said to the glaring Turtles and Splinter. But now you have robbed me of my triumph. And for that, you shall pay with your lives. The Shredder tried to bring his claws down, but Splinter blocked his attack with his staff. Shredder, there is no time. The building is about to implode. Even you could not survive. Shredder gave a punch with his other hand that broke Splinter's staff in two. Then we shall all perish. Together. What? Has he completely lost it? Toph questioned. You're saying that like he hadn't already before. Zuko commented as they watched in suspense at this playing out. Don tried to smack his staff on Shredder's helmet, but it actually broke in two upon contact, much to his shock. Shredder kicked Don away and towards the bomb, which counted down close to detonation. Splinter was next to be thrown back as Mikey tried to smack his nunchucks across Shredder's body. Come on guys, take him down, Sokka called to them, despite knowing they couldn't hear him. You got this. Beat him. Katara called as well. Raph threw out both his Sei at Shredder, but he jumped and while airborne, he was able to catch both Sei in his hands. Upon landing he delivered a powerful kick to Raph to send him flying before delivering a similar kick to Mikey to send him back as well. This however left him open for Leo to deliver a slash to knock Shredder down as well as the say out of his hands. Thanks bro. Raph thanked as he picked up his weapons. He faced Shredder from the left and Leo faced the villain from the right. Raph was the first to attack as he lunged forward, slashing Shredder multiple times, creating large cuts in his armor, which oddly sparked electricity out of them. Leo mimicked the action with his swords, slashing and creating more sparking cuts in Shredder's armor as he screamed in pain. Wahoo! Go guys! Ninja Turtle slice! Sokka cheered enthusiastically as he sliced with his own hand. Don soon got an idea as he ran to the transmat's controls. Guys, use your weapons to penetrate his armor. He kicked open a paneling to reveal several wires. I think we can stop him for good. Go guys, you got this. Katara cheered for them as Leo threw Splinter one of his katanas. Splinter jumped up and drove the blade right into Shredder's right shoulder. Yeah, kick his ass. Toph cheered. Alright, wahoo. Sokka cheered again. Come on, take him down. Zuko exclaimed. I know you can do it. Aang cheered as well. Raph and Leo both came in at the same time and stabbed Shredder from multiple directions with sword and sai alike. Mikey even threw in his nunchucks. Aang, Katara, Sokka, even Toph gave cheers at this. Zuko looked on in suspense while Yoshi's expression remained serious as they saw the state Shredder was in. Leo's swords, Raph's sai, and Mikey's nunchucks were embedded into him with electricity sparking out of the wounds. You, pathetic creatures, cannot hurt me, Shredder declared, though he sounded like he was in extreme pain. Preach it to the choir bucket head. Toph exclaimed. Don't be so sure, Don said in response to Shredder as he held two exposed wires in his fingers. He placed them together where a surge of electricity shot out and directly into Shredder's penetrated armor. It shot through him in all directions as he yelled in agony before falling down. Yeah, wahoo! Sokka cheered with his squeaky voice. They got him. Katara cheered as she and Aang shared a hug. Good riddance to that bastard. Toph said with a wide grin. Wait, Zuko said. If they got him here, then how is he still alive in our world? He asked as the turtles and Splinter gathered around his seemingly lifeless body. The gong's smiles vanished. Yeah, Aang looked to Yoshi. How is he still alive even after that? You wondered how he was able to live for more than a millennium. Yoshi pointed to the Shredder's downed body. There's your answer. Everyone, both the spirits of Team Avatar, as well as the turtles and Splinter looked in surprise to see steam shot out from the Shredder's chest. A compartment opened up in the abdomen area to reveal a pair of eyes inside. Both Aang and Don spoke the same thing at the same time. The Shredders. An Utrom. He was indeed. A very familiar red-skinned Utrom crawled out of the body, revealed to be an exo-suit all along. That's not just any Utrom, Katara shuddered, recognizing him from the earlier vision. Both Sokka and Mikey screamed at the same time. It's him, Sokka screamed. It's the prisoner dude. Mikey screamed simultaneously with Sokka. Chirel, Zuko exclaimed in a glare. The same little slime ball who? Toph began. Who escaped after causing Mortu's ship to crash on Earth a millennium ago. Chirel revealed. He ain't so tough now. Raph stated as he punched his fist into his palm. Let's just squish him. I'd squish that little blob myself if I had the chance. Toph was in agreement. Everyone soon looked in shock however as Chirel leapt from the destroyed armor and onto Raph's face in an attempt to smuggle him. Raph tried to speak, but it only came out in muffles. What did you say? Chirel said in a mocking laugh. I cannot seem to hear you. Man, that is one nasty bug. Sokka exclaimed, still not over the fact that the Shredder was Chirel all along. Seriously, who saw that coming? I sure didn't. Aang exclaimed. Yeah, I didn't see this coming either. Katara agreed. Leo attempted to pry Chirel off Raph's face only for the evil Utrom to attempt to bite him. However, Splinter was able to stick a rod under Chirel's body and pry him off Raph's face to send him flying to the wall. Don quickly got to work on the transmat as they had less than 10 seconds before the bomb would go off. Guys quick, I've got the transmat recalibrated. Everyone quickly ran to the transmat as it powered up. Let's hope wherever we're going is a lot better than the last place we went. Leo said as they ran to the transmat. Chirel tried to scurry after them as the bomb counted down from 6 seconds. 5 seconds remained as Chirel tried to jump into the beam and be teleported out with them. The Trolls and Splinter were beamed out with 4 seconds remaining. 3 seconds remained as Chirel missed his opportunity and landed on the ground with only 2 seconds left. Chirel screamed with wide eyes as the bomb reached zero and all exploded in a flash of light. Aang, Zuko, Toph, Katara, and Sokka attempted to shield themselves as the area around them faded to white. And now, you know, Yoshi said, as everyone seemed to calm down and look at him. Now you understand how the foot came to be, and the reason the Shredder hunted down the Utroms. I still can't believe it. Aang said. All this time, possibly the worst and most evil enemy we've ever faced was really just one Utrom. He wasn't just one Utrom. Yoshi stated. Chirel has committed countless atrocities across my universe. He is responsible for over millions of deaths. He's really that bad? Katara asked as Yoshi nodded. But now it makes sense. Zuko said. Now we know how he survived all this time, and why he hunted the Utroms down. I can't wait to rip that little bug apart with my bare hands. Toph exclaimed. But, what does we want now? Sokka asked. What is he after with our world? That I do not know for certain. Yoshi confessed. You must find out on your own. Rejoin your friends and be prepared. The time of your final confrontation with the Shredder draws near, and it may very well be the most difficult battle you've ever endured. Aang closed his eyes and opened them with declaration. We'll be ready. I hope that you will be. Yoshi said. Go now. Return to your friends. The vision faded as everyone was returned to his or her bodies. 2 hours later. After Aang and his friends returned to their bodies, they all met up with Splinter, Leo, Raph, Dawn, Mikey, Karai, Mai, Ty Lee, April, Suki, and Casey and told them everything they've learned about the Utroms as well as the Shredder's true identity. Wait, let me get this straight. Mai began. The Shredder, the very same psychopath who overthrew the Fire Nation and is trying to kill us, is really just a little alien bug. More like a slug than a bug. Sokka pointed out. Still, it's a lot to take in. Suki said. There's also the fact that he's been alive for more than 1,000 years. Suddenly he doesn't sound all that scary anymore. I mean, since you guys say he's only about this big, Ty Lee stated as she held out her hands to motion the small size of an Utrom. Oh, don't be fooled, he's still plenty scary and dangerous. Dawn told her. Yeah. When I first found out the Shredder was an Utrom, I nearly soiled my shell. Mikey added. Nasty little bug. Raph grunted in disgust. Yeah, that reminds me. Katara began as she looked at the turtles. You guys knew the whole time what Shredder really was, right? The 4 turtles grimaced a bit. Yeah, we knew. Leo confirmed. Well, why didn't you tell us? Katara asked. Yeah, that little bit of info could really have been useful. Toph said with crossed arms. Be honest, would you guys really believe us? April asked. A deranged, murderous, psychopath is really an alien in a robotic suit. Okay, when you put it that way, it does sound too fantastic. Sokka admitted. Yeah, we still find it hard to believe that little slime balls still causing us so much trouble. Casey added. Zuko gave a chuckling grunt. Wonder how Isula would take it if she knew that her new master was really just a tiny red slug. She'd probably either be really freaked out or really pissed. Mikey said. I'd bet even she'd probably faint. He joked, causing Ty Lee to giggle and even might a smirk. None of it matters, however. Master Splinter said, getting everyone's attention. The identity of this evil monster does not matter. He still must be stopped. His shadow looms over this world, threatening every living being within it. We must prepare ourselves, for we must confront him soon. Sooner than we may think. Karai spoke up. While all of you were having your vision, I received a message from Chaplain. The Shredder is aware there's a spy in his midst. He knows about Chaplain. Zuko asked. Not yet. Karai replied. But he has to go under radio silence now. We cannot rely on him at this point. Also, the Shredder's plan is near completion, so we must prepare. Karai's right. Leo stated. The Shredder must be stopped. No matter the cost. As he said that, Aang looked down a bit in uncertainty. While he agreed the Shredder had to be stopped, he wondered though if right now, he was currently ready. Chapter 31. Sozan's Comet, Project Meteoroid. It was nighttime upon Zuko's beach house on Ember Island, which served as a hideout for our heroes. Most of the group had been sleeping as a good night's rest, given all that they've experienced recently, would do them all a world of good. The only one who didn't appear to be sleeping was Master Splinter as he sat in his own room in a deep meditation. As he meditated he began to experience an intense vision. At the same time though, while young Aang also slept in his own room, he too began to experience the same vision. Hamato Yoshi was standing in front of the Utrom Mortu and the High Council. Master Hamato Yoshi, Premier Guardian of the Utroms, we honor you for your exemplary service. I swear that I will never fail to protect the good and noble Utroms. Yoshi bowed. Even if it costs me my life. The vision shifted to moment that would be Yoshi's death, as he lay beaten at the foot of the Shredder and his forces. He who lives without honor will end without honor. Yoshi declared in defiance at the Shredder. The Shredder raised his claws. Bah, I will finish you myself. He brought his claws down and killed the honorable warrior as he gave an evil laugh. Now nothing will save the Utrom from my wrath. The vision once again shifted to Sozan's Comet as it was surrounded by flame and fell from orbit onto a grassy field, resulting in a cataclysmic explosion that turned the once grassy field into a barren wasteland as the world of the four nations began to burn away. Yet another vision revealed itself. This one was of the Utrom home world as multiple explosions could be seen on the surface. A massive army of foot mech machines with machine guns, and even black-clad humanoids with pale white skin, bald heads, blank eyes, and foot emblems were fighting a recitance of Utrom soldiers. The humanoids revealed themselves to be benders as one line shot flames with palm thrusts, another group revealed themselves to be waterbenders as they created multiple water constructs along a line of earthbenders who shifted the ground below them to their will, and even a line of airbenders were present as well, creating a storm of tornadoes. With the combined efforts of these elemental foot soldiers, and foot mechs, the Utrom forces were easily overwhelmed. A massive image of the Shredder floated in space as he held the burning Utrom homeworld in his right hand, along with the burning Four Nations planet in his left hand. His evil and vile laugh would echo throughout the universe as he declared himself its new master. The vision shifted once more. This one revealed both Aang and Master Splinter on a tall and snowy mountain. They both faced Hamato Yoshi, as he was clad in the uniform of the Guardians. All three bowed, and once Aang and Splinter stood up they found themselves also dressed in the garb of the Guardians, much to their surprise. Though Aang could not give words to this, Master Splinter understood. I understand, he bowed to Yoshi who smiled. The vision ended as Splinter awoke from meditation, and Aang from his slumber in their respective rooms. I will not fail you my master, my father. Master Splinter declared. However, while Splinter declared his own resolve, Aang had quite the opposite thoughts as he looked at his hands. I'm not ready. The next day, the second Aang had woken up, after finishing his breakfast of course, Zuko had him working on his firebending. As Zuko worked with Aang, Karai and Leo were both observing closely while everyone else, Katara, Raph, Toph, Mikey, Dawn, Sokka, Suki, April, Casey, Mai, and Ty Lee was lounging around on the stairs that led to the entrance of the beach house. Aang shot out more fire fists as Zuko gave him his lesson. More ferocious, he exclaimed. Imagine striking through your opponent's heart. Ah, I'm trying, Aang exclaimed in frustration to his teacher. He's being a little harsh right now, don't you think? Leo asked Karai. He has to be, she replied. We have much to do, and very little time to do it. Now let me hear you roar like a tiger Dillo. Zuko exclaimed to Aang, who gave a very weak roar and shot out very little flame. That sounded pathetic. I said roar. This time, Aang gave a loud roar as he shot out a massive tower of flame from his mouth, and both his hands. Momo scurried in fear and hid behind Zuko's leg who nodded in approval. Not bad Twinkle Toes, not bad. Raph commented. Yeah, you'd make a killer in the special effects department in Hollywood. Mikey agreed. Meanwhile, Katara and April each brought out an empty watermelon with cool beverages. Is anyone thirsty? April offered. Who wants a nice cool glass of watermelon juice? Katara announced. This got Aang's attention almost immediately. Oh, me. He tried to run toward the refreshing drink, but Zuko caught him by the collar of his shirt. Hey, your lesson's not over yet. Get back here. Zuko held up a sulking Aang by his shirt. Leo chose to walk up to the firebender. Zuko, you've been working Aang for a few hours, he could use a break. He's right, Zuko. Don chimed in. What harm can come from just 5 minutes of downtime? Downtime. Mikey relaxed. The best 2 words in the English language. He joked, resulting in Ty Lee giggling. Zuko looked towards Karai, who gave a begrudging nod. Fine. He let go of Aang, who ran immediately to Katara and April for his drink. If you all want to lounge around like a bunch of snail sloths all day, then go ahead. He began to walk away, along with Karai. What's his problem? Casey asked. He's just like this, ignore him. Mai chimed in. Maybe Zuko's right though, Sokka said. Sitting around the house has made us pretty lazy. But Mikey and I know just the thing to change all that. He began to stand up with the orange-clad turtle. Yeah baby, Mikey exclaimed. Beach party, he shouted. 2 seconds later, Cowabunga, Mikey shouted as he, Sokka, and Ty Lee all dove into the water on the beach. Katara ran out toward the water, leapt into the air, and used her waterbending to erect an ice surfboard as she created her own waves. While they were in the water, everyone else, particularly Leo, Suki, Mai, Don, and Casey all laid on the ground, most of which were trying to get a tan. Suki could see Sokka running from the water to a certain spot on the beach as he had an eager smile on his face, clearly having something planned. Aang had just finished sticking a pair of large branches onto the head of a sand replica of his beloved bison. Check out my Appa sand sculpture. The aforementioned bison gave a roar of acknowledgement at his sand duplicate as he began to walk away and was later joined by Raph and Toph. Not bad, Picasso. Raph joked. Yeah. Toph began as Aang jumped down to join them. But I've been working on my sandbending. She flexed her hands. You guys are gonna love this. With a flex of her arms, she instantly created a perfect replica of the entire city of Ba Sing Se below her. This surprised Aang and Raph, but for different reasons. Whoa. Aang breathed in amazement. You made a duplicate of Ba Sing Se. I thought you hated that place. Raph recalled. Toph shrugged. Just wanted to wow you guys. Well, you wowed me. Aang noted. You even made a tiny Earth King in Bosco. He said, referring to a tiny sand replica of the Earth King and his bear. Raph, Toph, Aang, and even Mai walked up towards Sokka, who was working on his own project. Try and top that, ponytail. Raph called out Sokka. I'd like to see that. Mai smirked. Sokka looked unimpressed as he presented his project. Ta-da! He presented some sort of blob-like sculpture. There was a large patch of seaweed that seemed to represent hair, with a series of shells to represent a mouth and eyes, and even a starfish to represent a nose. What the heck is that? Mike questioned. Is that a blubbering blob monster? Aang wondered. Looks more like something you see in some lame horror movie. Raph commented. Sokka did not like their assumptions. No, it's Suki. Aang's jaw dropped before he, Toph and Raph all burst out laughing, even Mai chuckled a bit. Wow, Raph exclaimed between laughs. I mean just, wow. Suki, we'll all understand if you break up with him over this. Toph commented in a snarky tone. I know I probably would at something that sappy. Mai added in an equally snarky tone. Suki actually gave a sincere smile from where she sat. I think it's sweet. This resulted in Sokka rushing over to her in an embrace and giving her a large kiss on the cheek. This seemed to confuse Aang. But, it doesn't even look like, before anything else could be said, a large fireball was shot out and it completely obliterated the entire sculpture. What the shell? Raph commented as he, Aang, and Mai saw Zuko running toward them and shooting multiple fireballs at Aang, who made a run for it over Toph's sand Ba Sing Se, which too was obliterated in Zuko's onslaught. What the, has your boyfriend lost it? Raph exclaimed toward Mai as Zuko chased Aang. I have no idea, Mai replied. Aang ran closer to his Appa sand sculpture, but he saw a glint out of the corner of his eye, forcing him to limbo to avoid a horizontal slash from Karai's sword strike. He recovered from the limbo as he jumped high via his airbending and behind his Appa sand sculpture. What are you guys doing? He questioned as he stuck his head out. I am sorry for this, Aang, but this is a lesson that you need to learn. Karai told him as Zuko shot a large fire blast at the sand sculpture, destroying that as well. Aang jumped away to avoid this, but Karai was already on him with one of her swords, but Aang used his airbending to jump up onto the cliffside and run toward the house. Karai used her own agility to jump to the top of the ledge as Zuko propelled himself up with firebending, and they continued to chase Aang back toward the house. Everyone quickly ran toward the source of the commotion. "Hey, what the hell is going on?" Casey questioned. "Did Shredder find us?" Leo questioned as well. "No, but Zuko's gone crazy," Sokka exclaimed as he tried to piece together what remained of his sand sculpture. "I made a sand sculpture of Suki and he just destroyed it. This resulted in my smacking him upside the head." "Really?" she questioned. "That's what you're upset about?" "Oh, and he and Karai are attacking Aang," Sokka quickly added, resulting in the entire group running toward the house. "Raph, what the shell is going on?" Leo asked his brother as they ran. "You got me," Raph replied. "But if those two don't have an answer I like, someone's in for a world of pain." Zuko shot more and more fire blasts toward Aang as he ran. The young avatar jumped over one blast and onto a palm tree, which he held onto the top for. Karai came to the base of the tree and used her katana to cut it down. As it fell, Aang quickly jumped from it and onto the roof of the beach house. Karai came to the side of the house and ran up the wall to the roof as Zuko jumped on the railing and climbed onto the roof shortly after Karai made it. The two faced Aang as he was in a defensive stance. "Get a grip before I blast you two off this roof," he shouted to them. "Go ahead and do it," Zuko challenged as he shot another fire fist, as well as two more blasts from several kicks, forcing Aang to slide down the roof to avoid them. What no one seemed to notice was the commotion on the roof above disturbed a certain humanoid rat, deep in his meditation. His eyes shot open. Aang slid off the edge and caught the edge of it so he could jump into an open window and into an empty room where he hid behind a dresser. A large fire blast opened a hole in the roof as Zuko jumped down into the room, followed by Karai. "We know you are here," Karai called to Aang. "Do not run from your enemy, for they will always find you." Almost in direct response to that statement, Aang blew the dresser he was behind directly at Karai, who used her sword to slice it in half before it even hit her. Zuko spotted Aang and tried to shoot a fire blast at him, but Aang was already outside the door and in the hallway. Karai and Zuko followed him as Zuko tried to shoot more fire toward Aang, but before they could land a mark, Master Splinter suddenly appeared and spun his staff to diver the flame, surprising both Karai and Zuko, as well as Aang, who forgot Splinter was meditating in the house. "Enough of this," Master Splinter stated as he rushed forward and delivered two palm strikes to both Karai and Zuko. The powerful strike sent them both flying back with enough force to send them flying through a wall and outside, where they landed on the unforgiving ground. Aang breathed a sigh of relief. "Thanks, Master Splinter. Will you tell me what is going on?" Splinter questioned Aang. "I don't know, but I'm going to find out." Aang and Splinter both ran outside as they jumped toward the ground, right as Leo, Katara, Raph, Sokka, Dawn, Toph, Mikey, Suki, Casey, Mai, April, and Ty Lee all arrived. Most of them looked very displeased. "What the shell is your guys' problem?" Raph exclaimed to Zuko and Karai as they tried to get up. "Seriously, did you guys lose your minds or something?" Mai questioned as well. "You two could have hurt Aang, or worse," Katara exclaimed. "What exactly is wrong with you?" Dawn questioned too. "What's wrong with us?" Zuko angrily exclaimed as he and Karai stood up. "What's wrong with all of you? Have you forgotten Sozin's comet is only 3 days away?" Karai was in complete agreement with Zuko. "How can any of you be sitting and having beach parties when we should be formulating a plan of attack?" This earned looks of confusion and vague guilty expressions from everyone else. "You guys don't know?" Leo asked. "Don't know what?" Zuko asked as they received more looks. "Why are you guys looking at us like we're crazy?" "Yeah, funny story about Sozin's comet," Mikey chuckled guilty. "See, the thing is, I was going to wait to fight the Shredder until after it came," Aang revealed. "After." Karai and Zuko both shouted at the same time. Even Master Splinter turned around toward Aang with a surprised expression. "What?" the rodent master questioned. "I'm not ready," Aang stated. "I need more time to master firebending. And frankly, your earthbending could use some work too," Toph pointed out, resulting in Aang looking down a bit. Karai looked around. "You all knew of this?" She looked toward Ty Lee and Mai, two of her closest friends. Even you too. My grimaced a bit. We thought you guys knew. Sorry. Ty Lee rubbed the back of her head sheepishly. Splinter turned toward everyone else looking less than a little pleased. How come I was not told of this? Sorry Master Splinter. April apologized. But we all caught on and we thought you did too. Yeah, look at this kid. Casey walked up and placed a hand over Aang's head to emphasize his height. Does this beanpole shrimp look like he can take on Shredder? Aang gave Casey a slight glare. No offense, he said to Aang quickly. You guys were there in Ba Sing Se, remember? Sokka reminded Karai and Zuko. Shredder completely tore Aang apart. Aang himself grimaced at Sokka's reminder as he held his scar on his chest where Shredder stabbed him. But, what about the sword of Tangu? Zuko remembered. Wasn't Aang supposed to use that? Zuko, Aang has never held a sword in his life. Leo told him. He barely knows how to use a regular sword. How's he supposed to use one that's augmented with both magic and Utrom technology? Guys look. Katara began to tell Zuko and Karai. That whole plan of fighting before the comet comes was supposed to be used against the Fire Lord, to prevent the Fire Nation from winning the war. But obviously, things have changed drastically. Shredder and the Foot came into the equation. Don added. They took over Ba Sing Se in less than a day, and used the invasion during the Day of Black Sun to take over the entire Fire Nation behind all our backs. The Foot rules both the Earth Kingdom and the Fire Nation. Mikey continued. Not to mention the Water Tribes are almost down for the count too. Shredder's pretty much the king of the world right now. Things can't get any worse. Zuko grimaced. You're wrong. That got everyone's attention. It's about to get worse than you can even imagine. Leo looked in confusion. What are you talking about? Ty Lee, you recall when Zuko and I were summoned to that war meeting the day before the eclipse? Karai asked them. Yeah, we remember. Mai nodded. What about it? Ty Lee asked. Zuko then began to tell the tale. It was something I dreamed about for so many years. My father had finally accepted me back. Flashback. Karai walked alongside Zuko to the Fire Lord's throne room. Two servants were dressing the prince in formal armor as they came to the curtain. Zuko and Karai both looked toward each other before they entered. In the throne room, were the Fire Nation generals, admirals, and war ministers at the table. On the right side of the chamber next to the pillars was Hun in a holographic image of Stockman, no doubt broadcasting from Ba Sing Se, and on the left side of the chamber were Oroku Sake and the Foot Elite. On the throne at the back of the chamber was Fire Lord Ozai himself, with Princess Isula at his left side. Welcome Prince Zuko, and you as well Karai. We waited for you, Ozai greeted. Zuko and Karai made eye contact one more time before walking in separate directions. Karai walked over to her father and the elite. It is not like you to be late, Karai. Oroku Sake told her. I apologize father, she said as she stood by his side. Zuko made a brief glare toward Oroku Sake as he walked up to his father's right side. He made a respectful bow before he sat down. Ozai then started the meeting. General Shino, your report. Thank you sir. The general stood up. Thanks to the Foot, Ba Sing Se remains under our firm control. However, Earthbender rebellions have prevented us from achieving total victory in the Earth Kingdom. What is your recommendation? Ozai asked. Even with the aid of the Foot, our army is spread too thin. The general continued. But once the eclipse is over and the invasion defeated, we should transfer more domestic forces into the Earth Kingdom. That is assuming you guys make it out of the Earth Kingdom. Hun pointed out. What is that supposed to mean? A Fire Nation admiral questioned. You are forgetting the turtles are leading this invasion. Hun reminded. That alone should be enough to get you quaking in your boots. Oh please. One war minister dismissed. They're just 4 overgrown reptiles. What can they possibly do? Do not underestimate them. Oroku Sake told them. I have made that mistake before, and it cost me dearly. While it is true there is only 4 of them, they pose a threat that is equal to that of the late Avatar. Ozai spoke up. While I acknowledge your warning in regards to those turtle creatures, Master Sake, let us return focus to the topic of this meeting. He turned to his son. Prince Zuko, you've been among the Earth Kingdom commoners. Do you think adding more troops will stop these rebellions? Zuko looked down slightly as he spoke. The people of the Earth Kingdom are proud and strong. They can endure anything as long as they have hope. Yes you're right. Ozai looked down before his eyes flashed an evil look. We need to destroy their hope. Karai slightly spoke up. Your Majesty, I do not think, but she was interrupted by Isula. I think you should take their precious hope, and the rest of their land, and burn it all to the ground. The snarky princess stated. You may actually be onto something, Princess Isula. Oroku Sake began. Sozin's comet has the power to enhance a firebender's ability, correct? That is understatement, Master Sake. Ozai replied. Sozin's comet has the ability to endow us with the strength and power of 100 suns. No bender will stand a chance against us. While it is true that the comet has that ability, I believe that the foot may have found a more practical use for it. Oroku Sake told them with a sly smirk. Isula seemed to take offense to that statement. Is there something wrong with how we use our comet? I mean no offense. Oroku Sake raised a hand. Allow me to clarify. You used the comet's enhancing abilities to wipe out the air nomads a century ago, but what I have planned for it will make that act seem like child's play. What exactly are you suggesting? War Minister Chin asked. You gonna destroy the world? He asked in a joking tone. Nothing so crude. Oroku Sake replied. Half. 2/3 at the most. Chin laughed slightly but stopped when he saw the look on Saki's face. That was not a joke. What exactly are you talking about? Ozai asked. Allow me to explain. The hologram of Stockman began. Ever since we took occupation in Ba Sing Se, I began to construct a satellite network to gather data on Sozin's comet. Upon finding that data, I began construction on this. Another hologram appeared at the center of the war table. This one was of the soon-to-be-completed rocket ship that Shredder would construct. Project Meteoroid. Stockman continued. Once completed, this magnificent vessel will launch into the planet's orbit, close to Sozin's comet. On it, I installed a gravity generator, which will launch a graviton pulse that will be powerful enough to push the comet out of its orbit and sending it crashing onto the planet's surface, specifically the Earth Kingdom continent. The hologram showed the rocket being launched toward the comet, a pulse generating from the rocket, which sent the comet plummeting toward the hologram of the Earth where it crashed and obliterated the continent on that side of the planet. Zuko and Karai could look in complete and total shock at this. All the war ministers, generals, and admirals had their own looks of surprise. Even Isula did not expect this. However, Ozai simply smiled. Marvelous. Truly marvelous. Ozai then began to walk onto the table. Oroku Sake spoke next. In my lifetime, I have witnessed many wars, and I have learned something from all of it. Whenever a nation or empire tries to take away the freedom of another nation, they resist. While it is true you are close to winning, the real reason you have not yet achieved total victory in the last century was because the Fire Nation has tried to take away the free will of this world gradually. However, with this act, not only will all resistance be destroyed in one swoop, but the survivors will give up their freedom willingly. With the destruction of their nation, any surviving man, woman, or child will happily follow a leader who offers food, shelter, and order. That could work. One general spoke. It will work, Ozai said as he stood on the table. While we may destroy one world, we will give birth to a new one. A world in which all the lands are Fire Nation, and I am the supreme leader of everything. Everyone began to clap at Ozai's declaration, even Oroku Sake, who could only give a devious smile at how he just deceived the Fire Nation's leaders. The only ones not clapping were Karai and Zuko. Both looked towards each other from their respective spots as their own pupils shook, both evidentially horrified at this evil plan. Reality. I wanted to speak out against this horrifying plan, both of us wanted to, but we didn't. Zuko said with shame as he sat down on a rock and Karai sat next to him having finished telling the tale. My whole life I struggled to gain my father's love and acceptance, but once I had it, I realized I lost myself getting there. I had forgotten who I was. Karai put a sympathetic hand on Zuko's shoulder. Everyone else in the group looked in complete and total shock. No way, Mikey breathed in horror. He's gonna destroy the Earth Kingdom. Aang breathed as well. Not just the Earth Kingdom. Karai corrected, getting everyone's attention again. What are you talking about? Leo asked. My father told Ozai that Project Meteoroid's purpose was to simply destroy the Earth Kingdom. Karai explained. But, that was a deception simply to divert his attention away, allowing the Shredder to assume control of the Fire Nation from the shadows. His true plan is far more sinister. This caused everyone to look in suspense. He's talking about destroying the Earth Kingdom, what can possibly be worse than that? Sokka questioned. Karai, how big exactly is Sozin's comet? Dawn asked. Karai had a grim expression on her face as she looked at the purple-clad turtle. It has a diameter of roughly 10 kilometers and it will impact the Earth at a rate of 32 kilometers per second. That statement caused Dawn and April to gasp in audible horror, as everyone looked confused. Can someone translate please? Toph asked. That's about as big as the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs in our world. April exclaimed, earning looks of horror from Leo, Raph, Mikey, Casey, and Master Splinter. And if that comet crashes at the rate Karai told us, Dawn began. It won't just obliterate the Earth Kingdom continent, the debris from the impact will create an ash cloud that will spread over the planet, blotting out the sun for months. Aang, Toph, Katara, Sokka, Suki, Mai, and Ty Lee each looked in their own faces of shock and horror as Dawn continued. It will create abnormal weather anomalies such as heat lightning storms, acid rain, and with the lack of sunlight, all vegetation and plant life will die out, followed by animal life, and eventually the entire human race. Karai finished. If Sozin's comet crashes into the Earth, it will mean the end of all life on the planet. That is the Shredder's plan, that is Project Meteoroid. It was silent for a second as everyone let the situation sink in. Oh my god, April covered her mouth in horror, as did Ty Lee. Casey's eyes had widened in absolute terror, even Raph was stunned silent. Katara sank on her knees. I can't believe this. I didn't think even Shredder would, Mikey stuttered. I knew he was bad, but this is just pure evil. Sokka breathed as Suki tried to embrace him to find comfort. Mai at the same time looked toward Zuko, who tried to give her what consolation he could from their eye contact. This is not good at all. Leo placed his hand on his face, while Master Splinter clenched his staff in anger at the thought of Shredder committing such a vile act. What am I gonna do? Aang asked, mostly to himself. Karai stood up and approached him. Aang, I can understand that you are scared, and you do not feel you are ready to save this world. But if the Shredder is not stopped before Sozin's comet arrives, there won't be a world to save anymore. Less than a second, a look of anger crossed Raph's face as he grabbed Karai by the collar. Why the shell didn't you tell us about Shredder's whacked-up plan before? Zuko quickly broke Raph away from Karai. We didn't think we had to. We thought we were still going to fight him before the comet came. No one told us you decided to wait. Okay, this group clearly needs to work on its communication skills. April tried to ease the tension. Aang turned his back to the group as he fell to his knees and put his hands on his face. This is bad. This is really, really bad. There's one thing I don't get though. Mai said. If he was just going to destroy the planet when the comet came, then why even take over the Fire Nation? What was the point of it? The reason he usurped Ozai was so the Foot could gain accesses to all the Fire Nation's resources and materials needed to construct his vessel. Karai answered. The Shredder does not care for politics or this century-long war. To him, the entire Fire Nation itself was nothing more than a means to an end. He had to completely devastate the Fire Nation's economy, but he did it. Zuko added. Project Meteoroid is complete, and all that's left is waiting for the comet. What does Buckethead get out of destroying the planet though? Casey asked. 2 reasons. Karai answered. First, to wipe out all possible resistance. Second, he has all he needs. The vessel he constructed does more than just drive Sozin's comet onto the planet's surface, it also serves as an ark, where all his foot forces will wait out the weather anomalies that will kill off all remaining life. On his transport, Stockman will genetically breed an army of artificial bending super soldiers. Wait, are you saying Shredder can make benders? Toph questioned. That's impossible, Sokka exclaimed. Yeah, no one can make bending. That's like trying to make a piece of someone's soul. Katara added, with the concept of making benders sounding like some form of sacrilege. That's not what Baxter Stockman believes. Karai informed. He has found a way to genetically engineer bending through studying a bender's genetic material. Let's not forget that Shredder was able to clone a new body for Hama. Dawn recalled. If what you're saying is true, Then Shredder should be able to also genetically engineer an army of waterbenders, firebenders, earthbenders. Even airbenders after studying recorded data on the Avatar. Perhaps even create new forms of bending. Karai added. In addition, with the Nexus under his control, Master Splinter assumed he can spread his army throughout countless worlds. He may even transport to the home world of the Utroms. Millions, perhaps even billions more will suffer at his hands. Aang heard all of this as he was still in his position of on his knees and hands on his face. How can I stop? I can't. Aang. Katara eased as she slowly walked toward him. You don't have to do this alone. Leo joined her. She's right, Aang. Shredder's just as much our responsibility as he is yours. Yeah, we got your back, kid. Raph agreed. If we all gang up on Shredder, we got a shot at taking him down. Toph agreed as well. Alright. Sokka cheered. Team Avatar Turtle is back. Air, water, earth, fire, mutant ninjas, lady ninjas, fan, sword, knives, acrobats. He looked to Casey. Whatever it is you are. Classy. Casey replied sarcastically. Fighting the Shredder is no doubt gonna be the most difficult thing we've ever had to do. Aang said seriously before he smiled. But I wouldn't wanna do it any other way. Despite the grave situation, most of the group smiled as they all came together in the form of a group hug, even Ty Lee, save for Zuko, Karai, and Mai. Mikey looked toward them. Come on, you guys too. The orange-clad turtle told them. Yeah, being part of the group also means being part of group hugs. Katara agreed. Zuko looked towards Mai nervously as well as Karai, both young women looking in mixtures of nervousness and embarrassment before they joined in. They heard a roar as everyone looked up in comic horror to see a familiar shadow over them. Incoming! Dawn exclaimed as Appa landed on top of all of them and licked all their faces at once. Momo joined in for the same results. After everyone went to get their supplies ready, Zuko had to give one final firebending lesson to Aang with Katara watching them. There's a strong possibility we're gonna run into Isula, and there's one you need to know in order to deal with her. Zuko began. How to redirect lightning. Aang looked excited as Zuko began to demonstrate the form on how to redirect the deadly attack. If you let the energy in your own body flow, the lightning will follow it. You turn your opponent's energy against them. Zuko instructed as he demonstrated the form. That's like waterbending. Aang pointed out. Exactly. Zuko replied as Aang began to follow Zuko's movements. My uncle invented this technique himself by studying waterbenders. So, have you ever redirected lightning before? Aang asked as they continued to go through the motions. Once. Zuko answered. You saw me do it when we were escaping the Western Air Temple, remember? What did it feel like? Aang asked. Zuko stopped the movement as he spoke. Exhilarating, but terrifying. Aang's smile vanished. You feel so powerful holding that much energy in your body, but you know if you make the wrong move, it's over. Aang gave a nervous laugh. Well, not over. I mean there's always Katara and a little spirit water action, am I right? He looked over to her as she sat with Momo. Actually I used it all up after Shredder stabbed you. Katara told him in a grim tone of voice. Oh, Aang grimaced when he heard that. Of course, lighting will likely be the least of your worries. Zuko told him. You know how Shredder fights, you can't afford to drag it out with him. You have to end his life quickly, before he ends yours. Aang did not like the end his life part Zuko just said. Yeah, I'll just do that. Later that afternoon, Leo, Aang, Splinter, Zuko, Mikey, Dawn, Katara, Raph, Toph, Sokka, Suki, Casey, Karai, Mai, Ty Lee, and April all came together on a cliffside as Mikey had finished constructing a dummy at the edge of the cliff bearing a resemblance to the Shredder with a crude wooden helmet, though he drew a mustache on it just for fits and giggles. Aang had the sword of Tangu with him as per Karai's request. Alright everyone listen up. Leo began to tell the group as all 16 of them came together. Knowing Shredder, he's likely going to be expecting us to show up to try and stop him. When he fights, he is focused solely on killing his opponent, but his intense focus can also be his biggest weakness. Leo used a stick to draw a diagram for everyone to see. If we hope to even stand a chance against Shredder, we can't afford to drag it out. We have to end it quickly, so our timing has to be perfect. We'll split into groups and come in from multiple directions. Dawn, April, Suki, and Sokka come in from the far right side. Raph, Katara, Karai, and Zuko go up front. Mikey, Ty Lee, and Casey come in from left. Master Splinter, Mai and I will come in from the rear. With Shredder so focused on us, he will not notice Aang who comes in from directly above. Aang, you'll use the sword of Tangu to take out Shredder in one shot. Not even he can survive that. Everyone nodded in agreement, though Aang looked a little nervous. Hey, what about me? Toph asked. Right now, you'll be acting as Shredder's forces. Leo told her. So I get to chuck a bunch of sharp rocks at all of you? Toph excitedly asked. Whatever you have to do to make it seem realistic. Leo confirmed. Toph smiled. Sweetness. Several moments later, Toph stood in front of the Shredder dummy as she gave her own evil laugh. Everyone was in their respective spots. Dawn, Suki, April, and Sokka were behind one set of rocks as Sokka bore his Water Tribe armor. Katara, Zuko, Raph, and Karai in their spot. Mikey, Ty Lee, and Casey in their location, with Casey sporting his hockey mask. Master Splinter, Leo, and Mai in their spot, and finally Aang on the uppermost ledge as he put on the metal glove needed to wield the sword of Tangu. Leo looked over the edge. Attack. He began the simulation. Everyone proceeded to charge forward. Dawn led Sokka, Suki, and April down one path. Soon large rock dummies shot out from the ground, bearing resemblance to that of Foot Ninja as they slid to the group. Dawn used his staff to slam down one rock dummy. April took out her katana as she cut one down with a slice. Sokka performed a similar action with his own sword as Suki jumped up and delivered a powerful kick to knock the rock dummy down she was facing as the group proceeded further. Before they could get much further, a razor-sharp, and rather large, rock blocked their path. Dawn used his staff to pole vault over it while Suki and April ran around it, but Sokka almost smacked face first into it. Watch it, Toph. Sokka yelled to her, given how close it came to hitting him. I am not Toph. I am the Shredder. She acted as she gave another evil laugh. She's enjoying this way too much. Katara commented. That's our Toph. Raph said with pride as he, Katara, Karai, and Zuko ran further up their path. They scattered a bit to avoid more incoming rock blades sent flying courtesy of Toph. They were quickly surrounded by almost a dozen rock soldiers. Raph drew his sai and Karai drew her katana blades as they along with Katara and Zuko used their respective weapons and elements to cut down all of the rock soldiers surrounding them before moving onward. Goongala. Casey shouted as he took out his hockey stick to smack down more rock foot soldiers coming their way with Mikey and Ty Lee behind him. Multiple rock soldiers surrounded the pair as Ty Lee jumped onto his shell with her hands to perform a handstand as she spun her legs like a helicopter blade as Mikey spun below with his nunchucks and they beat down all the rock soldiers. Wow, we make a great team. Ty Lee beamed to Mikey. I know we should do this more often. Mikey agreed as they moved onward to avoid getting shredded by the sharp rocks heading in their direction. Master Splinter led both Leo and Mai down their path toward the Shredder dummy from the rear. But as expected, more rock soldiers barred their way. Leo drew his katanas and easily cut them down to size. Mai jumped in the aid and threw her knives to impact the eyes of the two soldiers in front of her. A large group surrounded Master Splinter as he quickly flashed a series of punches and kicks before the stone soldiers crumbled to dust. Aang, now! Leo shouted to him. The Avatar drew the sword of Tengu with his gauntlet, which immediately lit up with its powerful energy. Aang jumped off the ledge, pulling the sword back, ready to strike down with all its power. He gave a serious and intense look toward the Shredder dummy, but as he got closer, his look faded into one of hesitance. As he landed he shot out the sword and purposely missed as the energy wave soared past the dummy without even scratching it. He then stopped. What are you waiting for? Take him out, Zuko exclaimed. I can't, Aang replied. Stop the exercise. Leo ordered as everyone stopped and Toph stopped firing rocks. Raph angrily stomped toward Aang. What is wrong with you? The red-clad turtle exclaimed. If this were real, Buckethead here would not only have cut your head clean off, but he would have taken back the sword and used it to wipe out the rest of us. I'm sorry, Aang exclaimed. It just didn't feel right. I didn't feel like myself. Raph raised an eyebrow as he took out one of his sai and immediately stabbed the dummy's head, causing Aang to wince. There. That's how you do it. As Aang looked at the decapitated dummy, a worried feeling filled his eyes. What he didn't notice was Master Splinter giving Aang a serious look from behind. Later that night, everyone was back at the beach house, eating supper. While everyone else was mostly eating and conversing together, Aang sat a distance away from the group. Leo walked up close to him. I don't have to read minds to guess what you're probably thinking. Leo, I don't know if I can do this. Aang spoke to Leo. Leo gave a sigh. Perhaps I should take the sword. Aang looked at his friend in surprise. Leo, you clearly don't want to use it. Maybe it would be better if I hold onto it, just for a better chance of keeping it out of Shredder's hands. It didn't take Aang long to know that Leo was right. Aang really didn't want to use such a destructive weapon. You're right. He grabbed the sword of Tangu by the sheath and handed it to Leo. Take it. Leo put on the metal gauntlet as he took the sword and sheathed it with his other swords. Katara walked onto the scene. I have a surprise for everyone. She announced. I knew it. You did have a secret thing with Haru. Toph excitedly exclaimed, resulting in confused and surprised looks from everyone. Who is Haru? Karai asked to Ty Lee, who shrugged. No. Katara said as everyone went back to his or her meals. I was looking for cooking pots in the attic, and I found this. She presented a picture of baby boy. Look at baby Zuko. Isn't he cute? She jokingly gushed, resulting in everyone happening. All he needs is little Binky and a bedtime story. Mikey joked as well. He saw Zuko with a grim expression. Geez, learn to take a joke, dude. Yeah, I'm only teasing. Katara added. That's not me. Zuko said. That's my father. All humor in that moment died. Oh, Mikey uttered. Yeah, you should probably burn that. Raph told Katara as she rolled up the paper. But, he looks so sweet and innocent. Suki said. Of course he does, all babies do. April replied. Well, that sweet little kid grew up to be a monster. Zuko said in angry tone. And the worst father in the history of fathers. Second worst, compared to my father. Karai added. Yeah, sorry Zuko, I'm gonna have to agree with Karai on that. Mai said. Your dad was bad, but Shredder is downright evil. Ty Lee exclaimed. Seriously, even talking about him just freaks me out. You're freaked. Mikey began. Try fighting him for as long as we have. Just hearing his voice gives me the shivers. That guy's like a freaking tank. Casey stated. He can take everything we throw at him and still walk away. All that in mind, and it's easy to forget he's just a tiny Utrom in a robot shell. Don pointed out. And I personally can't wait to shut his lights out permanently. Raph punched his right fist into his left palm. But he's still a living creature. Aang finally spoke from his distant spot with Leo next to him. Are you seriously defending him? Mai questioned. No. Aang said immediately as he stood up. I completely agree. Chirel, Oroku Sake, Shredder, whatever name he goes by, he's pure unrelenting evil. And both our worlds would probably be way better off without him. You can forget probably. Leo said as he stood up with Aang. But there has to be another way than just killing him. Aang tried. That is if we can kill him. Raph said. If. Ty Lee, Sokka, Suki, and Toph all exclaimed at the same time. Believe us, we have tried pretty much everything to put him down. Raph explained. We dropped a water tower on top of him, Leo cut his head off, we left him in a building about to explode, even dropped him into a flaming ship that capsized, exploded, and sank into the freaking ocean, and he still walked away. At first I thought he was like some kind of zombie. Mikey exclaimed in fear as he tried to put on a zombie-like act. Ooh, I'm the undead Shredder, I'm gonna eat some turtle brains. The point is, we've tried almost everything and he still won't die. Don stated. Master Splinter had sat in a meditative position the entire time and finally spoke. Strong he may be, but I refuse to believe that he is invincible. I know there is a way to stop him. Sokka looked toward a certain female ninja. Karai, you were raised by the guy. Any tips on how to kick his bucket? Karai could only look down. I wish I knew. I may have been one of the few to know him as an Utrom, but he did not divulge any weakness to me. Aang ironically saw this as a hopeful sign. Well, if we can't kill him, maybe we can do something that stops him without killing him. Like what? Zuko questioned. The young Avatar tried to think of something. He's just a small alien in a suit, right? Maybe Toph could metal bend his suit away and expose him while I make pots of glue and use glue bending to glue all his little tentacles together so he couldn't move. Raph put on a sarcastic smile. Hey yeah, and while you're at it you can show baby pictures of Karai so he can turn good. While most people chuckled at his obvious joke, Aang was oblivious to his sarcasm. You really think that'll work? I was being sarcastic, you idiot. Raph shouted at Aang, causing his smile to drop. Aang began to pace in front of the group. This goes against everything I learned from the monks. I can't just go around wiping out people I don't like. You do know that he's planning on wiping out the entire world, right? Casey reminded. Of course you can, Aang, you're the Avatar. Sokka said in a light-hearted tone. If it's in the name of keeping balance, I'm sure the universe will forgive you. No one's gonna miss Shredder anyway. Mikey said in a similar tone. You'd be doing the universe a favor. Aang did not like the tone they were using as he turned around with an angry look. Mikey, Sokka, this isn't a joke. None of you understand the position I'm in. He shouted. Mikey and Sokka both winced as everyone else, even Karai, looked surprised at Aang's outburst. Aang, we do understand, it's just, Katara tried. Just what, Katara? What? Aang angrily questioned. We're trying to help you. She exclaimed toward him. Then when any of you find a way for me to beat the Shredder without taking his life, I'd love to hear it. He exclaimed in anger as he stormed away. Aang, don't walk away from this. Katara tried to go after him, but Leo stopped her. Let him go, Katara. The blue-clad turtle told her. He needs to figure this out on his own. Wow, has this kid always been this temperamental? Mai asked. Yep. Raph and Toph both answered at the same time. Remember, Master Splinter began as everyone turned toward him. We must see things from his position. He was born and raised among a society of pacifists and forced into a situation where he is not only the only remaining air nomad, but also a being that this world's responsibilities lie on his shoulders. However, I feel as though that he feels that those same responsibilities lie on his shoulders alone. I do not blame him. Karai said as she looked in his direction. With all his abilities, it's easy to believe that he is a god. I only pray that belief does not go to his head. Everyone looked in the direction Aang went off to and each had his or her own look of concern. Aang sat alone on a patio meditating in front of a small plate of rocks and candles, facing the open ocean before him. His beloved lemur soon joined him. Hey Momo. He patted his pet's head. I don't suppose you know what I should do. Momo chirped. I didn't think so. He resumed his meditation. A couple of hours later, Aang had fallen asleep on the same patio. Everyone else in the house too had fallen asleep, save for Master Splinter, who mediated once more up on the roof of the house, directly above where Aang was so that he could keep an eye on him and provide what help he could. However, the rodent master sensed something as he meditated. It sounded as though he heard the sounds of chanting. His eyes opened and he saw an island that wasn't there before. He stroked his beard as he stared at it, but heard a faint noise down below him. Splinter looked to see Aang, in a trance-like state, jumped down from the patio and onto the ground as he walked straight toward the beach. Master Splinter said nothing as he jumped down and followed Aang alongside Momo. Master Splinter knew this island was somehow attracting Aang. He doubted it had anything to do with the Shredder as he sensed no hostility but still followed out of concern for Aang. They both came toward the beach as Aang walked straight toward the ocean and swam toward the mysterious island. Splinter was about to join him but stopped and turned back in the direction to the beach house. He gave a sigh. My sons, I leave it to you. He followed Aang in the water and directly toward the island. The next day, everyone was all set to leave as Leo, Zuko, Raph, Karai, Suki, Katara, Dawn, Mikey, Sokka, Casey, April, Ty Lee, and Mai were all loading their stuff onto Appa in the back courtyard of the beach house as Toph sat on the stone fountain. Is that everything? April asked as they packed the last of their supplies. No, it's not. Toph said. Where's Aang? Leo looked around as well. Not just Aang, where's Master Splinter? The group shared concerned glances as they all ran inside the house to try and find their missing teammates. Appa took a break from his breakfast as he looked in concern as well. Aang, Aang, Zuko called out. Sensei. Raph called out as well. Come on guys. We need to go. Mikey exclaimed, hoping they would hear them, but there was no response. The group split up into smaller groups as they searched the entire beach house. They each searched every room, every closet, Mikey even looked under a rug or two. No matter where they looked, they couldn't find anyone else in the house. Leo walked onto the patio where Aang meditated the previous night and saw something familiar. Aang left his staff. Leo took Aang's glider as he and Katara walked onto the patio. He never leaves this behind. Karai walked onto the patio. Neither Aang nor Splinter are in the house. Let us check the beach. In less than a minute the large group was at the beach where they spotted two familiar sets of footprints. Look, there are Aang's footprints. Sokka pointed out. The other must be Master Splinter's. Don deduced as they kneeled down to analyze them. They lead straight out into the ocean. Zuko noted. What? They went for a midnight swim and never came back. My guessed. This is very weird, Ty Lee said. Maybe they were captured. Katara guessed. I doubt it, Leo answered. If the Foot were here last night they would have come for all of us, not just Master Splinter and Aang. And it doesn't look like there's a sign of any struggle. Don observed from looking at the footprints. Didn't you guys say Splinter vanished on you one time? Toph asked the turtles. Yeah, but that was because we seriously hurt, and the Utroms took him to their base to heal him. Mikey responded. Maybe they ran away. Casey guessed. Master Splinter doesn't run away. Leo replied. Especially before something big like what Shredder's planning. Besides, Aang left behind both his glider and Appa. Sokka added. Then where you think they are, Sherlock? Raph questioned in a groan toward Sokka. It's pretty obvious, Sokka said with confidence. Aang disappears before an important battle, and Master Splinter himself is also quite spiritual, they're both definitely on a spirit world journey. Don face-palmed. Sokka, Master Splinter can't go into the spirit world, remember? And even if he could, wouldn't his and Aang's bodies still be here? Zuko added. Sokka sulked. Oh yeah, forgot about that. Then they must be somewhere on Ember Island. Karai said. We'll split into groups and find them. She and Zuko were both suddenly pulled together by their arms by Toph. I call dibs on Zuko and Karai, resulting in them both looking surprised. Everyone else looked at Toph weirdly. Mai gave a somewhat skeptical look towards Toph. What? Toph questioned. Everyone else got their life-changing field trip with these two, now it's my turn. In that case, I'm going with Mikey. Ty Lee hugged his arm. I'm cool with that, Mikey responded with a grin. Fine, let's go, Leo ordered, thus the search began. Sokka took the reins on Appa as he, Casey, and April looked from the skies to get a bird's-eye view of the entire island. Leo, Don, and Raph ran across the rooftops on a town, keeping away from the public eye, as they jumped from roof to roof discreetly and quietly but found no trace of either Aang or Master Splinter. Ty Lee and Mikey were in another area of the town as well. Mikey stuck to the rooftops as Ty Lee searched several buildings. She walked out one door and looked up to Mikey on a roof before she shrugged and they continued onward. Katara, Mai, and Suki were all in a more crowded area of the island's town as a large group of people gathered around an area chanting, Aang. Aang, 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 over and over. The three women young looked toward each other as they ran toward the crowd and pushed their way through to the center only to find it was the actress from the terrible play they recently watched pretending to be Aang. Avatar state. Yip yip. She performed as the actor Toph lifted her up high. This resulted in Mai, Suki, and Katara looking comically angry. And then when I was 9, I ran away again. Toph continued to tell her story to Zuko and Karai as they searched a forested area around the town. Zuko nodded, as this conversation seemed one-sided. I know I shouldn't complain. Toph continued. My parents gave me everything I ever asked for, but they never gave me the one thing I really needed, their love. You know what I mean. Karai gave a brief sigh as she turned around. Toph, I understand you had a difficult childhood and I am truly sorry for that, but we need to focus more on finding Aang and Splinter. She turned around and walked on. This is the worst field trip ever. Toph uttered as she blew her bangs, but Zuko put a hand on her head. We'll talk more about our bad parents after we save the world, okay? He told her with a sincere smile. This earned a smile from Toph. Thanks. She punched him in the arm as they continued to look. A couple of hours later, everyone regrouped at the beach house as most of the group sat at the staircase toward the entrance, everyone had his or her own respective look of disappointment as they didn't find anything. Sokka landed Appa as he, April, and Casey got off. Let me guess, no luck. Casey guessed. What gave it away? Mikey asked in a dull tone. We couldn't find anything from the sky. April said. You sure you guys checked everywhere? We looked under every rock, in every building, even asked some people. Don said. We even double-checked and found nothing. Raph groaned as he put his face to his palm. Now what are we gonna do? This is absolutely the worst time to pull a vanishing act on us. It's like they just vanished off the face of the earth. Zuko uttered. Hey, wait a minute. Toph spoke up. Has anyone noticed that Momo is missing too? Oh no. Sokka uttered in horror. What? Ty Lee asked. I knew it was only a matter of time. Sokka ran up to Appa and opened his mouth. Appa ate Momo. What? Mike questioned in a groan. Is he serious? Sometimes even I think he's stupid, and that's saying something. Mikey criticized. Momo. I'm coming for you, buddy. Sokka looked inside Appa's mouth. Karai looked to Katara in confusion. Is your brother always? Yep. Katara rolled her eyes in confirmation. Ain't a bison a vegetarian? I'm pretty sure the big guy didn't eat that little monkey. Casey noted. Sokka, Momo's probably with Master Splinter and Aang. Don told him. That's just what Appa wants you to think. Sokka stubbornly said as he actually crawled inside Appa's mouth, resulting in Zuko, Casey, Mikey, Raph, and Mai, even Suki in all face palming at Sokka's stupidity. Get out of Appa's mouth, Sokka. Leo told him. Master Splinter and Aang are gone and Sozin's comet is less than 2 days away. So what do we do then? Katara asked as Appa spat out Sokka, covered in the bison's saliva. Leo ended up looking towards Karai and then Zuko. Everyone else followed as well, causing the two to look curiously. What? Why are you looking at us? Zuko asked. Zuko, you're the expert at tracking the Avatar, you've been doing it for almost 3 years. Mai reminded. And Karai, you were raised by Shredder, who was even able to track us multiple times. Raph added. If anyone can find Aang and Master Splinter, it's you two. Toph added as well. They both looked toward each other. Zuko put his hand to his chin. I think I may have an idea. Well, that's better than nothing. Casey uttered. The sun was starting to set as the whole group mounted Appa with all their supplies. Leo carried the sword of Tangu with his other blades as Zuko was at the reins with Karai by his side. Hey Zuko, why exactly are we going to the Earth Kingdom? Ty Lee asked. Yeah, I mean I don't wanna tell you who to do your job, but that's over an entire ocean away. Mikey told him. There's no way Aang and Splinter will be there. Just trust me, okay? Zuko told them as they flew onward. Whatever you're planning, we need to get it done quickly. We're running out of time. Leo noted as they saw the sun coming down. Boss Sing Se. It would seem that the entire Fire Nation military was pouring into Boss Sing Se as multiple tanks and soldiers entered the city and filled up the entire lower and middle rings of the city. The upper ring was filled entirely with foot forces, with nearly every single foot ninja and multiple mech suits patrolling the streets around the fortress that served as Foot Central Command. Even the colossal foot carrier hovered over the fortress. The entire city was nearly an impenetrable citadel. Inside the citadel, Oroku Sake was in his personal quarters with his foot elite, along with Hun, Stockman, Hama, and the Dark Turtles. Dark Raph noticed how Hama bandages up her hands and was wearing her foot uniform tightly to her body. What's up with you, Ms. Bloodbender? None of your business. Hama told the Dark Turtle clone as she held her arms, wanting no one to see what was underneath her bandages. We've run through all the diagnostics. Stockman said. Starship systems are nominal. Everything has been loaded onto the ship. Dark Dawn also informed. All the data from the Bender experimentation has been transferred. After the comet crashes, and we wait out the storm, the systems on board will start automatically to grow your army. Not to mention every single Foot Ninja and Fire Nation soldier in their military is in the city, so even if someone were to attack, it would be futile. Dark Leo stated. Congratulations Master Shredder. Hun told him with a bow. These will be the last days of the 4 nations, everything is on schedule. Yeah, time for the fireworks. Dark Mikey laughed. Oroku Sake seemed quite ecstatic as well. After centuries, I shall finally return to the stars. The Utroms will travel to the Earth only to find that I am gone. They will never even think to travel to this dimension to find me. Even if they did, the hostile conditions of this planet will be far too deadly for even them. And once the cataclysmic storm has passed, and this primitive backwater rendered a barren wasteland, I will use the Nexus to transport my army of foot soldiers and artificial bending super soldiers to the home world of the Utroms. And with all of you by my side, we will slit each and every one of their throats. Now that will be quite a show. Hun mused. We have fought by your side since the beginning, Master. One of the elite said as all four of them bowed. We will serve you even on an alien world. What about me, Master Shredder? Stockman asked as everyone looked toward him. You said you would consider using your resources to grow me a new body, perhaps even one capable of bending. He mused. Dr. Stockman. Oroku Sake began. If your experiments prove to be beneficial, then you will be so rewarded. However, if you fail me again, your next punishment will be your final punishment. Stockman's holographic head gulped before the door opened and Isula came in and bowed to Oroku Sake. Sorry I'm late, Master Shredder. Isula apologized. With all this added traffic in the city, getting anywhere is nearly impossible. So, everything is ready. There has been a minor change in plans, Isula. Oroku Sake said, surprising her. What? I have decided to lead my newly grown army alone. You will remain here in this world. Oroku Sake told her. But, I thought, you and I would do this together. Isula said, sounding a bit hurt by this change in plans. This decision is final. Dark Raph chose to gloat. Looks like someone drew the short end of the straw. He chuckled to the princess. But we're all going. Dark Mikey gloated as well. Guess who's being left behind? He gloated further, only to be smacked upside the head by Dark Leo. Hama meanwhile couldn't help but smirk at Azula's misfortune. Isula was now getting angry. You can't treat me like this. She spoke to Oroku Sake as she stood up. You can't treat me like how my father treated Zuko. Watch your tone to the master. Hun warned Isula but was ignored. You can't just throw me aside like trash. Isula continued to exclaim. I've helped you conquer Boss Sing Se. I've led the Fire Nation alongside you. I've helped to hunt down those wretched turtles. I deserve to be by your side. Isula. Silence. Oroku Sake ordered. This seemed to visibly hurt the Fire Princess as she looked down with closed eyes as Hun, Dark Mikey, Dark Raph, and Hama smirked at Isula, which she didn't seem to notice. My dear Isula, listen to me. Oroku Sake began. My time in this world has been most beneficial to me. While I am gone, I cannot rebuild the new world. I will need someone strong and capable to help build this new dynasty of the Foot and lead it. At first, I thought Kurai would be the one to lead it, but I have now become aware of the weakness that lies in her. After coming to this world, I found someone else, someone without any weakness or flaw whatsoever, someone who is more deserving to be my successor. That someone is you, Isula. She looked up to him with hopeful eyes. Really? Indeed, my child. Oroku Sake cupped her chin. And for all you have done, I shall declare you the Empress of the New World to be. Her heart picked up. Empress Isula, she said, almost overwhelmed with joy but kept her posture. It does seem appropriate, but what about you? I have much grander goals. Oroku Sake stated. With the Nexus and all my resources at my disposal, one world seems insignificant now. Just as this world will be mine, so will every world. Soon the entire multiverse will fear and respect the Foot as I will rule all. All will know and bow before the Shredder. The Foot elite we're the first to bow to their knees. All hail Lord Shredder. Hun followed next. All hail Lord Shredder. Isula bowed on her knees. All hail Lord Shredder. All hail Lord Shredder. Dark Leo, Dark Dawn, Hama and Dark Raph all bowed. Hail to the King Baby. Dark Mikey bowed as he laughed once more. Even Stockman begrudgingly bowed. All hail Lord Shredder. Oroku Sake smiled. Everything now falls into place. Elsewhere, Appa had sat down near an old tavern as everyone got off. The turtles bore hooded robes once again as Zuko led the large group straight to the tavern. Where are we? Don asked. Looks like some kind of dive. Casey pointed out. Seems like my kind of place. Raph noted with a smirk as they saw the inside of the tavern with some people fighting and getting drunk. Figures. Mikey, Katara, April, and Suki said at the same time. Zuko, why did you lead us here? Leo asked the scared prince. June. Zuko pointed to an attractive woman dressed in black as she drank some tea, while at the same time, taking down some would-be fighter with just her legs in less than a second. Who is she? Karai asked. I remember her. Sokka pointed out. That weird bounty hunter with the giant mole. He remembered as they saw June stand up and effortlessly avoid the punches of another drunken fighter trying to hit her. Mole. Her skin is flawless. Ty Lee said. No, she has this giant mole creature that she rides around on. Sokka corrected. The Shirshu. Zuko confirmed. It's the only animal that can track Aang and Splinter's scents anywhere in the world. It's the one shot we have at finding them. Are you certain she will cooperate? Karai asked. Well, given that the fate of the entire world rests on it, I'd say she'd have to. Leo said. As June continued to avoid the punches of the so-called fighter, she threw her teacup into the air, and as it was airborne, she grabbed the man with both her hands and threw him over her shoulder to send him crashing into a crowded table. June caught her drink as it fell and drank it. She's good, Mikey observed. Not bad, Mai noted with a smirk. I don't know who this June lady is, but I like her. Toph said with a large grin. Think I may be in love. Raph said with a smirk as well. Aang laid on the ground as Momo climbed onto his face and licked it to wake him up. He groaned as he did. Hey Momo, I just had the strangest dream. It was no dream. Aang turned to see Master Splinter sitting cross-legged on a log above Aang. What are you talking about? Aang asked but got a good look around and found himself on a very small island in the middle of the ocean. What? Where are we? Aang questioned. Your guess is as good as mine. Splinter replied. And this is the end of part 15 of this What If. I hope you guys like it. Don't really leave a comment down below and subscribe to the channel.